Alright, we're done waiting. We're gonna do the thing. Hi, everyone. It's more Walking Dead today, and I feel bad for Fruity, because I've just been bothering them all morning, being like, is it time for us to stream yet?
We're both doing it.
Fair, but also, yeah, I don't want to, I don't want to wait anymore. I want to finish this. So I think we're gonna finish this. I guess first off, I should say Fruity, Allie, Smiley, and Stars, thank you for the contribution to the gummy hunt. Allie, thank you for getting the shout out there. And, Stars, thank you for the lurk. We appreciate it. Yeah, and we're just gonna like immediately jump on into this, because I need it to happen. Assuming the game's actually gonna capture. There it goes.
I can see it.
It wasn't showing up on stream for a second, but it's here now, so it's fine. I have managed to get the controller to like actually connect this time, so that's exciting. And everything's bad here.
Yeah.
Why are the zombies so blurry when they walk?
Where's Lonnie?
He gave us the slip. Hightailed it back towards Richmond.
Hey, remember how Jesus is Garrus?
Yeah.
What about the other two?
May have temporarily forgotten that.
Yo, I found my copy of Mass Effect 1 today.
What?
So it's very exciting.
So when are we gonna do a Fruity run of Mass Effect?
Shed any tears if I were you.
Maybe at some point in the near future.
Back the fuck off.
Perfect.
I don't need
I
a
found
lecture
1 and 3, I think,
You
and I
need
already
it from
have 2.
someone.
I found 2 of
You
them
don't want to
today.
become the thing.
Nice.
The world's a better place without
Nice.
it. Believe me.
I think I found all my games. There's
Just
too
no
many
other way to
games
make
here.
things right.
There are a few
My
games
friend
there.
Crowbar to someone once.
Oh, hey, she's talking about Kenny. Sorry.
My people need to know about what we found here.
Who are
What
your
about missing
people?
friends?
I'm surprised you care. Human life isn't exactly high on your list of priorities. Don't have time to keep looking. They'd want me to get home and warn them. So that's what I'm gonna do.
You sure you won't stay?
Don't feel
Need your
great
help.
having
So do
him
I.
judge me.
I won't forget about it. You have my word.
Jesus,
It's
so
a
you're
shitstorm
just gonna
out
wander
there, man.
off.
I don't see
Jesus
how
is
you're gonna
wandering
make
off.
One step at a time.
I thought
I-
he would at some point since he's from the comic.
it. You need to get back
Yeah.
to Richmond fast. I have loved ones in there.
Yeah. It's tragic.
We all do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Gotta
miss
wander off
Jesus.
to be in the comic.
But she's safe. I'm gonna tell her how I feel.
Yeah.
Truth never hides forever.
Okay,
Need
Trip.
allies
whatever.
in this. Lingard and Clint, they're our best bet. If
You
I can
could
get to
call
them
me
before John
Eleanor if
does,
you
maybe
wanted.
we have a chance. I know I was ready to say goodbye before, but I can't do this without you.
Ugh.
Can I count on you? I won't be able to pull this off myself.
Fine, but I expect first-class treatment when we're done. No more quarantine for me or my friends. Just the red fucking carpet.
Of course.
Wait, why are we
Whatever
staying?
you
I
need.
don't want to stay in
Just
Richmond.
Get this done.
Wait, what?
If Lonnie raises the alarm, they'll be waiting for us at the gates.
David, we hate you. You're not in
There's
charge.
a way in round back
Right?
to get us around any sentries. We can take Badger's truck.
Oh
I doubt
no.
he'll mind.
Come on.
It's
We gotta get
it's
on
funny because we killed the badger. No, we didn't. Yes, we
The
did.
herd's closing in.
Yeah, we
Yes, we did. Couldn't remember if it was Bearded Man or Beanie Man. It was Bearded Man. That's Badger. We killed him. We beat his face in. Poorly. Very badly, in fact. We kind of did a bad job. We're just here now? Okay. This is fine.
I'm thinking this will go a lot better if we split up.
Oh
A group
no.
this big can't exactly sneak around, particularly if they're expecting us.
Eleanor's in there somewhere. I'm going after her.
Hi,
Vanguard brought her to
Bono.
the clinic. That's your best bet.
Look
Bobby,
at
that's where
all
you'll go to
those
get Kate and Gabe.
chickens. Night Nightmare
Bring them to my
Productions.
house. It's the one with the raven on the Haitian post. We'll all meet up there. After
It'll
I pay
mostly
a
just be
little visit
people
to Joan,
screams at this point, right?
Stay out of sight.
Um,
They'll be keeping an eye out for us.
I'm gonna say
It's
stick
safer
together
to
because
stick
I just want to be
together.
contrary to
Negative.
David.
It's too risky. At
Don't
least this
don't
way, one of us
negative
gets
me.
caught, the other can still achieve their mission.
This fucking guy.
I'll scout ahead.
Oh, Clem still has that scar on her arm.
What about you, Clem?
I'm pretty sure I've still got some friends
From
in
the
the new
I
dog.
did
factory.
see that earlier from
They know where
the
AJ's being
shed.
held.
Yeah.
As soon as I find him, taking that truck and getting the hell out of here.
Well, you are owed a vehicle.
Keep an eye on David.
Yeah,
I may
no.
be playing nice, but I'd still watch your back.
Oh, 100% Clem.
I'm with you, Clem.
I genuinely
rubs me the
don't
wrong
know
way.
why
As
David's
soon as I
allowed
get
to
Kate
come
and
with
Gabe,
us.
I don't
figure out what's best
know.
for
I
us.
hate him.
I
hope it
thought
involves
he'd
getting
like
far away from
leave
here.
and go back. I don't know why he showed up
You know
here at
what's
all,
best
to
for
be
the people
honest.
you love.
I don't
No
know.
one else can make that call.
I don't know, but I don't like it.
But now
See
he's
you when I
he's
see
in
you.
charge. The guy everyone hits.
This definitely won't, go tits up at any point.
David
This
said
seems
to hang a
perfectly
ride
fine
up at
and
that corner.
great.
Seems clear so far.
Let's move.
No
That's pretty
problems.
normal.
This is, yeah, fine and normal. It's gonna be great. Definitely won't backfire at all. We are going so slow. Also, what is this? What is this divot in our back?
Oh jeez.
Like,
Is it
it's like
tucked in?
it might be, but that's like a shelf. You got a back shelf, buddy.
You know Javi
Man's
Garcia?
got back shelf.
Used to play shortstop for Baltimore.
That Javier Garcia? That's who we're looking for?
Yeah, that Javier Garcia. Anyway, sounds like some paranoid horse shit. Guy's a fucking ball player.
There's the medical center.
He's gonna go ninja his way back in here and stir up trouble.
We go in, we get out, we get Kate and Gabe, we get out.
What about our friends there?
Too busy
Doesn't
listening to
exactly
their
look like a welcoming
the
committee.
conversation in the background.
Let's hang out here for a while. Smoke break.
Damn it. We need a distraction. How's your throwing arm?
That is a oddly spherical rock. What would throwing it here do? Gonna do it at the transformer.
What the fuck? Shit, we need to get the fire crew or that shit could burn down the block.
You couldn't have just taken out a window.
No!
Did the trick, didn't it?
Now they'll be distracted for a while! Slash, it might distract more people.
Yeah.
Listen, Trip. Could we just
We burn down the
leave?
block. Everyone will be very distracted.
Find out.
Right?
Tell her we have to move Kate.
It'd
You
also
got it.
be,
I'll meet you here.
payback for them taking out whatever that place was. Prescott.
For just being bad in general.
Yeah.
Being bad people.
Yeah.
We thought you were. I was super worried.
We have to
Aw,
leave Kate.
that's sweet, Gabe.
Now.
Are you done
Oh.
being a dick?
Okay. I'm sorry.
He's not a
He
walnut
said
anymore?
you guys were denied
An aspiring
It's true.
walnut?
We're on borrowed
Nah.
time.
He's probably
People who
realized
run
that
this
his dad
place,
is
they're
actually
ruthless.
shit.
Yeah.
We have to move.
Where's my dad?
Oh, never
Is he
mind.
coming? Javi!
There's no time to explain now. Let's get to safety first.
Oh, okay.
David has a house in town. He thinks we'll be okay there.
Then let's go.
I have no time to explain,
Wait,
so
huh?
let me explain.
While you were gone, this woman, Joan, came by. I felt like she was sizing me up. It was creepy.
Yeah, she's not
She
good
implied
news.
David was in trouble. Like, he was no longer in charge. She kept saying Gabe and I didn't need to worry, but it only made me worry more.
Joan's a shrewd operator.
Don't worry about it.
You can't believe a word she says.
That doesn't exactly put me at ease.
It shouldn't. The thugs who shot you answer to her. She ordered raids on other settlements. We found all this stuff from Prescott.
She was behind Prescott?
David's rounding up allies to confront her right now.
Javi, I know you wanted to try it here, but this isn't our fight. We already lost Mari because of these people. Now, the
Where's
whole
the
place is about
okay,
to
let's
become
just
a
go
war
off
zone.
option?
Right? I think that's
You're right.
the
Let's
closest.
The only
leave.
thing I care about is keeping you safe.
Then you know we can't get involved.
What's going on? Tripp said we had to move to David's house.
We're not doing that. We're getting the fuck out of Richmond before it's too late.
Getting out? You shouldn't even be sitting up.
What?
And yet here she is.
What about my dad?
Gabe, your dad's a
Leave him.
fucking idiot.
We don't even know who he is anymore.
Yeah,
We have to
yeah.
get away before he gets us all killed.
One of the few times that I will agree with
He
Gabe.
won't know where we are.
Let's go.
Again.
I'm sorry, Gabe, but we have to get out of here.
We'll
If
write
we're
him a
leaving,
postcard.
I've got to get some things for the road. All my stuff is stashed in the room they gave me.
I'll come with you. We'll catch up with you guys.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get it. But also,
Gabe, come help.
but also.
Come on, buddy.
I'm just glad that at least Kate has
Not going,
acknowledged that David's shit.
What?
Yeah.
I'm gonna find my dad.
Like, I'm more willing to
I have
let.
to.
Okay.
buddy.
You do you, I
respect that.
guess.
Thank you.
Less baggage for us to
Gabe.
carry around.
No.
Kate,
But yeah, it's like
No.
I'm more willing
Please,
to
Gabe.
accept
Please.
and
I never thought I
deal
could
with
be a
Gabe
mom.
being like,
I never
"But
thought
my
I wanted
dad!"
to be a mom.
because
Until
he's
I
a
met
baby,
you
he
and your
doesn't know.
sister.
But also,
I'm begging you, don't do this.
It's my dad, Kate. I can't lose him again.
And I can't lose you.
Always a valid response.
this isn't my
Look at
fight.
me, Gabe. Please.
This isn't my issue. We established yesterday. I don't have time for moody teenage boys. Probably best that he doesn't stay here, but also, he's not my problem. He'll come back. They always come back. Unless we find him dead in the street at some point, in which case, oops.
This is a good strategy. He's not dead until we find the body.
It's his
and
fault.
then- what are the odds of that?
And this is what you want.
Could die in all kinds of weird places, and also the body could just wander off somewhere.
We got so
Very
close in the
unlikely
last
to run
few
into it
years.
again.
I thought Gabe would want to stay with us.
Yeah, well, he likes
I
his
really
idiot
saw him
Warner
as my
dad.
kid. I guess he didn't feel the same way.
That's a Kate, this is not my problem.
I just wonder if I could have done better.
I'd hold it there, folks.
This is
And I'd consider
horrible.
explaining yourselves. I'd talk fast and clear.
Easy now. We were just on our way out.
That's him, right? The brother? Thought so. Bring him in.
Guy, I will do a murder on you.
They've got the Call of Duty guns.
Kate,
Not for long.
run!
Seems like they had a lot of opportunity to just shoot you at
Oh,
during that.
absolutely. Well, I wonder if they've been told that we need to be taken in alive. You know?
Yes, I must have.
I don't like your tone, David. If this is about your brother...
Don't pretend like you don't know what this is about. You've got a lot to answer for.
Me? You must be joking.
What's this?
They were trying to leave. Him and his lady friend.
Leave? I asked you to get Kate and Gabe safe, not tuck your tail and run. Were you really gonna desert me when I needed you most?
It was a matter of self-preservation. You're gonna get us all killed.
Great.
I'm going to
Good to know
make
your
enemies
faith
with
is strong.
everybody.
Where are they now?
Girl got away. No sign of the kid.
We'll deal
Make
with
sure
this
this goober has
later.
no friends.
And despite what we all agreed, you smuggled your brother back into Richmond. What happened to you, David?
This is
It
fine.
hurts
Everything
me to
is
see
fine.
you betray your own people.
You've got
Okay,
some
Joe.
damn nerve.
We used to be so close.
Oh, you're one to talk. If anyone betrayed
Also,
Richmond,
there's
it's you,
the
Joan.
doctor.
What
We need
are
to
you
ask him where
people
AJ is.
talking about?
Where is Chunky
So
Baby?
this is your
Where's
brother?
Where's Chunky
First you
Baby?
accused Badger.
Where's Chunky Baby?
Would someone please explain what's going on?
I
Chunky
can.
Baby.
Lonnie?
Go ahead, Lonnie. Tell us.
They attacked us. Murdered Max and Badger.
Oh my goodness.
Son of a bitch.
They would have got me too. But I was lucky.
We did you a favor. Those bastards deserve to die.
Isn't that the dude that we hit with the crowbar?
Those are our people you're talking about.
No,
They were
that
attacking
was
other
the
settlements,
boss one, the bald
killing
man.
and looting
That
on
was
Jones
Badger, right?
orders.
No,
Is
the
that true, Joe?
Lonnie in the first
It's
episode.
nothing but a smoke screen.
In the
don't
in the
remember.
house.
Transparent.
Wait,
if you
yeah.
ask Me.
I thought,
Lonnie.
We like hit him with the
Please
crowbar and then we
tell me
pistol
this
whipped
isn't
him.
true.
yeah, and everyone were going on like you were dead, and now
Yeah.
yeah.
We did
It
that.
must be.
Raided those communities.
Okay.
Those people. Because David told us to.
Wow. I'm not gonna argue with that.
Not Joan. I'm sorry, David. I can't do this anymore. I can't hurt anyone else.
I mean, I'll say
gonna
this.
kill you for this. I swear to
Because
God,
we
I'm
know
gonna
it's
rip
not
that tongue
true.
out of your bullshitting mouth.
I deserve a lot worse for what I did. For what we did.
This is bullshit. He's covering
What?
for Joan.
David, just stop.
Why the close up on
We
the
knew this
lady?
couldn't last forever. We confronted him. Me, Badger, and Max. We were done. We let him know. He said he didn't need us anymore. Not with his brother here now. That's when Badger and Max...
That's enough.
David, stop.
Paul, you have to stop her. Or the blood from those raids, it's on your hands. Don't let Joan get away with this.
Grow a fucking backbone, please.
I
Stand
believe
up for what's
everyone.
right.
Let's just
I think
get rid
you've
of all of
caused
them.
enough trouble.
Right?
Don't try and drag him into
Can we
your mess.
just all
The
agree
things
that
you've
it's
done,
bad
they're an
here?
assault on
It's
what we
just
built here.
bad
You
here?
and your brother, you're going to have to answer for them.
I
I
just
still have
wanna
friends here.
leave.
Allies. This won't stand.
You brought this on yourself, David. I'm sorry to say it, but you're done here.
They were our family, David. How could you?
I'll give you family.
What? Also, why did they tackle Javi? He's not the one with the gun.
Oh,
Also, we've-
happy.
Demanded justice. Of course, everyone injected AJ with the medicine. Yeah, alright.
2000 2/3 of players destroyed his skull.
Wait. Killed Max or watched David do it?
That's fine.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand what it was saying. Okay, but listen, it was either Kate or David, and I hate Kate less than I hate David. Oh my god.
How did so many people pick David?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't like it though.
No.
It's episode 4 time. Let's go. I need my sweater again. Excuse me. Where did I put it? Oh, it's on the back of my chair.
Previously on The Walking Dead.
It's like, where did I put that? It's here. It's right behind me.
No! You monsters!
So when are we getting AJ back? Oh yeah, we spit in David's face.
You're a piece of work. You know that?
Give Chunky Baby.
Give Chunky Baby. I want Chunky Baby. Give me the baby.
You took my goddamn guts out. Joan was in on it. You did it on her orders. I'm sorry.
It is too late for sorry, you backstabbing shitbag.
I'll help you. I'll tell everyone in Richmond about this.
We don't need your help.
I'm begging you.
Maybe we should have let him live. As I think about it.
But we didn't like him.
We didn't like him. He was
I'd hold
kind
it
of
there,
awful.
folks. And I'd consider explaining yourselves.
He was kind of
I asked you
miserable.
to get Kate and Gabe safe. Not tuck your tail and run.
They were our family, David.
It was a tactical retreat. You should understand that, David.
Could you?
Piece of shit! I'll give you family!
Who tackled us, by the way? Who was that?
With a Ushenka guy? With the sunglasses?
Was it?
I thought so.
Okay. I mean, I believe you. I have no reason not to. These are not the flashbacks that I want. What are these wiggles that they were doing?
Damn it.
Strike one.
I'm out of practice, that's all.
Same here. I haven't held a bat since the league booted me.
Well, you got all afternoon to get back in your groove.
Oh yeah. Just holding this thing makes me feel better. You doing okay?
I've been wrestling with something.
Hey! Hey, man, you're Javier Garcia, right? The ball player? Can I get your autograph? If you could sign my baseball, that would be so awesome.
Just to piss David
Sure
off.
thing, kid.
Oh, man! Thank you!
Who do I make this out to?
Oh, no names. Band players' signatures are worth way more on resale than personalized crap.
Oh.
Just your name is fine.
Make it out to eBay.
Don't date it or anything.
Make it worthless. Also, thank you, Travis, for the gummy hunt contribution.
What the hell is this?
You want to make money? Get a job.
Whatever.
That
Keep
fan
those
was
fans happy, big
disappointed.
star. Let's get back to baseball.
What is this?
It's baseball.
Crush it.
Well, it's out of here. Holy cow.
You just had to rub it in, didn't you?
Yes.
Does talking like that make you feel better?
He's a
Yes.
professional baseball player. He's gonna be better than you at baseball, guy. You're an hammy man.
Strike two.
You
Knock
don't.
that shit off. I'm serious. You just talk.
You're not allowed to be better at
way
you
too
than
much fun.
baseball.
I'm not kidding.
Better than you at baseball.
Garcia is going ballistic.
I still can't believe you actually wanted to come here. If I were in your situation, I'd avoid batting cages forever.
Well,
Well, that's because
for
one of
reminding
you
me
is a
anyway.
quitter.
I needed the distraction.
Crush it.
Oh, Garcia's on fire.
Why would
I
you
think your
not?
ego boosted plenty. Next time we go to the shooting range.
I don't really shoot.
But I do. And I'm good at it.
Lol.
Fuck. You gotta shut up. Stupid thing.
Not allowed to be
Arms throbbing.
better than me at
Don't
anything
blame that
ever.
on me.
Right.
Pay attention. Well, the batting cage is serious business.
You're about the last person who should be telling people about serious business, Hobby. I remember I showed you how to play this game.
Well, let this superstar return the favor. Watch this. Oh
Love
my
this.
God, the crowd is going wild.
I got it. You don't have to rub it in my face.
No, I do.
David, knock off the tantrum. Grow up.
You just can't resist making your little digs, can you? Once again, it's Javi the star thinking he's better than me. That's gonna
He's
change.
better than you at baseball because
Right.
that's a good thing he
What's going on?
did professionally.
David, I
Right.
don't understand.
He's gonna punch
You don't
us. Oh
understand
no.
Because you only think about yourself. And I'm sick of it. It's been that way for years. You've always been looking out for yourself.
I'm sick of your attitude, David.
You love to mock me. But you have no idea what I deal with. My job sucks. Kate and I fight like cats and dogs. I belong back in the army. I had a purpose there. I had respect.
You know what? Yeah, do what you need to do. The army could be good for you.
No,
I
it
was
couldn't.
expecting more of an argument. Yeah. Things between me and Kate have been going downhill for a while.
Oh, yikes.
But if I left, it seemed like that would be best for everyone.
Right, have you
I can't keep
considered
pretending
not
this
being
is
an
the
ass?
life I want.
I read that
I'm not
as,
gonna
have you
stand in your
considered
way.
not being David?
All right,
Also that.
I'm not gonna lie. If I go, it's gonna be hard on everyone. Kate may need help from time to time. You can help, right? You won't leave her hanging?
Why
I
are you?
need to know that. In my mind.
It's your family, David, not mine. You gotta stay here to help them.
Typical selfish.
The stuff we
You don't
did
know
is
shit
so
about
weird.
family.
Isn't it though?
Come on. I want to get out of here now.
He's just
Horrible.
just an awful man.
Nothing redeeming about this dude. Can we not spend time with him anymore?
Get in there, you two.
Nobody
Jones
pushed
gotta figure out
him.
What to do with you?
She's making a huge mistake.
Nobody pushed
You made a
David.
mistake when you murdered Lonnie.
He tripped.
Hey, everybody just take a breath, all right?
I was just trying to tell them.
And that's your mistake right there.
Oh, now Lonnie's dead. Okay.
Everybody. Understand that Joan's not looking for revenge. She just wants order. Cooperation is the name of the game. There's still a way through this.
Oh.
I know you Richmond folks are a little flexible when it comes to
No, everyone's
I
bad.
buckle just 'cause
That's
I'm
all you need to know. They're all bad here.
You talk
The
a
nice one
big
is the
game,
chunky baby who we
but
need to
talk
rescue.
Isn't gonna get you out of this mess.
Gotta
You
save
boys
Chunky
wanna
Baby.
Make it out of here. Just relax and trust in the process.
But everyone else awful. There was Jesus. Jesus was pretty great, but Jesus is gone now.
Yeah, we annoyed Jesus and he left. He found out we were a big nerd.
Yeah.
After I brought you in. After I saved your asses.
Oh my god, David,
This
shut
is how
up.
you treat me? Betrayal? Lies?
I wanted to follow your plan, David. Kate wanted to escape. She's scared.
You're telling me my own wife Tried to fuck me over?
Yes.
I don't believe that for a second. You have any understanding?
He
of
is
what
not
you're doing to me?
listening.
I'm being set
David,
up.
no one likes
even
you.
wanna
Not a
think about what
single
they're doing to
person
me.
likes you.
I could have found a way to protect all
I
of
was
you.
gonna say, at this point, I'm just here to, like, fuck over every
you're
single
all on your
relationship we come across.
You gotta still have some friends here, right?
No.
Lonnie was a friend. He turned on me.
And you shot him. Any friends you haven't killed?
Haven't killed you yet. It's everyone out for
Cool.
themselves. these
I'm not
days.
your friend.
We wouldn't be in this situation if you paid attention to what Joan was up to.
This
I
is
did
gonna
my
be
best.
bad.
I have always done my best. You can't say I never tried. I have always given 100%.
Oh yeah? Tell that to Kate. You left her behind once already. Maybe it's time you try a different way.
Shut up.
Oh, there's the punch I was expecting.
If we get out of here, you're on your own.
That's fine.
We're with you.
No hesitation. I will throw that punch back.
If the punch David option comes up, you're
You
obligated
gotta.
to click punch David.
Right?
Give him a concussion. I came here to
Gotta
talk,
punch him.
not fight. You're not going to be a problem, are you?
I'm always a
I just want
problem.
a calm discussion.
You thought David was a problem? I got news for you. I'm even worse.
Oh, please.
Yeah, return to the last 4 years, but with a
People have
punch in the
concerns
face.
about me coming here after the way you murdered Lonnie, David. But I know what the real danger here is. And you need to hear about it.
I think everyone in this town is dangerous.
They are when they're scared and hungry. Those raids were unfortunate, but necessary.
Oh shit.
The real
She just
danger
admits
was
it.
another long winter.
I should have been told about this.
David, you remember how many friends we lost last year. I couldn't bear to see it happen again. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to call for a gathering in the square. The people deserve to hear a full explanation of your arrest.
And then?
Then you'll be replaced as head of security. No one's above the law, David. Not even you.
I know the laws, Joan. You're the one breaking them.
Your scheme is gonna
Okay,
blow up in your
David.
face. You just wait.
I really hope not. I'm
Fucking nerd.
responsible for the lives of everyone in this community.
You set
He's
me
the one who
up.
makes the game.
Everyone's gonna see through your lies.
I did what I had to do to keep the people of Richmond safe. They're going to see that. And they'll also see that the biggest threat to them right now is you.
I trust Joan on that, and that's terrifying.
understand
I hate
you're
this
angry
place.
with me, but
Yeah, they're
let's
just all
talk
bad.
about it in private.
Right.
Bring him with us.
Look, can we just get Chunky Baby and leave? Like, that's it. That's all I want. I want Clementine and Chunky Baby. And then I want to go.
Gotta get out of here.
Just have a little sit down. Think
No
about
time to
everything.
rest.
Okay, never mind.
Well, if I want to
That
rest,
doesn't
then I'm
look
in
very
control of the game.
Game says no. Oh, we're just pulling a pipe. We're just pulling this. This is ours now. Understood. Where did you put that? David, you can't. Not David. Oh my god.
Have it.
Javi. Bad idiot, man.
Bad idiot, man.
Oh,
Well, that's about the kind of day I'm having.
okay. Can I?
Attach it to the pipe to make a valve
Been a long
handle.
time since I hit the showers.
The most useful item in any
I could
game.
use one.
That
Too
or
bad there's no
fuses.
running water in here.
Okay, okay. Well, there's nothing over here. So this is horrible. It's true, Javi is not a cop. However, Javi is kind of
Nothing
ridiculous.
useful here.
Look.
Could squeeze through there.
No, you can't! Javier, I think you are misjudging how big you are.
I'm not gonna get up there from this bench.
Do you want me to get the stool?
find a rock and smash all the benches and lockers, and then make a improvised crowbar out of the pipes that drop from the locker. Then combine your socks with the rock to make a rock and a sock to use as a weapon.
and then get some tape and some cat fur and have a mustache. Perfect plan.
Yeah.
That was so loud. Flawless. I'm hitting this as fast as I can.
Javi!
Oh, Jesus!
I wasn't sure how I was going to find you. Then I heard the glass breaking.
Shouldn't have broken the
You're
glass.
alive.
For now, you escaped.
Should have
the
just
guards.
rotted down there.
We gotta get you out of here.
Should just sat in the
this.
chair.
Help me
Yeah.
pry these bars off.
Like we wanted.
Right?
Shit. Give it a push from your side.
Okay. Hey!
Now, give me a hand.
We did it!
Nice.
Now we're stuck with Kate.
At least it's not David.
At least it's not David.
I do kind of feel invested in trying to separate Kate and David, and that's like, and rescuing Chunky Baby, obviously, and that's like it.
Yeah.
It's a herd.
Yeah.
This place surrounded.
Again, like, I am more willing to be around Kate now than she is, like, David's dangerous. And it's like, yes, I wish you would know that 4 years ago. But hey, better late than never.
Eleanor found a place.
Kind of makes sense. Like,
Gabe's
she
there with the
knew
others.
then they were bad, but
been
she
hiding
thought
out
she were,
there.
like, stuck there, and then for
For as
4
long as we
years,
can, anyway.
she
Yeah.
hasn't been
Thank
stuck
God for
there,
Eleanor.
and now she realizes she
She's
could
a
have
lifesaver.
gone the whole time. It was always an
Right.
option.
Oh, her.
Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
probably keep moving.
So yeah, let's do what we can to get Kate as far away from David as possible.
Where are the patrols?
Oh,
And
around.
rescue
I had
Chunky
some
Baby.
close calls on my way to
Goals!
find you,
Gotta
Almost
find
got
that Chunky
caught.
Baby.
but
How
I
have
got
we missed
lucky.
him so far?
That's
A
worse.
baby that
That
chunky.
took some guts.
I owe you my life. It's only fair.
Don't
I
worry.
don't know.
I think we're even.
I need to find him though. I love Chunky Baby.
All clear. Come on.
How do you know it's you just saw a person walk by? That doesn't mean it's clear. Okay,
I
Hobby.
saw them take David from
How
the
many
quarantine
people are
building.
there? Like 2 maximum. What are the odds of both be walking down the same road?
How's he doing?
How's David
I
doing?
can't be his wife anymore. But he doesn't deserve to be locked away.
Don't think about
Don't
him.
second guess yourself. We did the right thing.
Maybe you're right. I hope David forgives me.
Oh, he won't. Let's just be incredibly clear about that right now. Also, the chances are incredibly high that 2 people are walking down the street at the same time.
Lead the way.
This is bad. We're doing it bad.
The miracle of 2 at once.
I'd forgotten about that.
They're gonna be looking for you soon.
Oh my god. I miss that
Only a matter
turkey.
of time before they find the room empty. And sound the alarm.
I think they
Oh,
want
gotta-
me more than you. If they spot us,
Got
Oh!
Sally here
afraid
in
to leave me
chat.
behind.
That's not going to happen.
Welcome in, Tallier. It's been a minute. Welcome back. Yeah, we're enjoying it. I mean, we're ragging on this one a little bit, but it's been fun.
There's a lot of activity all of a sudden.
We'd played, so I've got Fruity
I don't
Spruce
like
here,
this.
co-commentating with me. I'm pointing at nothing, by the way. Fruity's not here in the space with me, but Fruity is on stream with me. Gonna take a moment. And yeah, we had played, we both played season 1 and 2 before, but haven't gotten through 3 or 4. So this is our first time getting through season 3. And it's not as good as the other 2, but it's been fine. I'm having
So
fun.
Jesus.
Yeah, we love Jesus. Talia.
Nice.
We can do that. Well, yeah. Welcome back. Nice to see you again. This is episode 4, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. Excuse me. No yawns. None yawns. We might have to take a break shortly, though, because I need to use the restroom, because I definitely forgot to do that before stream.
Oh, jeez.
So maybe after this cinematic, this opening.
Well, I
pause
guess
real
that's
quick.
allowed. You're excused after this cinematic.
Okay. Okay, good. But then I can also move stuff from the wash, because the washer wasn't done when the dryer was done, and it was very upsetting.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It was supposed to be done like right as we were starting, and it was horrible. I think I have one more load that I have to do, and that'll be it. And then we'll be done. Until tomorrow. And then I will have one load of clothes to do. Or not clothes, sheets. It's fine.
This episode's called Thicker Than Water. We're gonna have to deal with David tomorrow.
Yeah, we are. Okay, we will take an incredibly short break. I'll have words on stream up for everybody. It's gonna be great and fine. And we'll be back in like a couple of minutes while I use the restroom and move some laundry. So, you can do the sheets? Okay, that's okay. That works. That board was horrible. That board was horrible. This is
a tough one.
That one was rough. Props to Nem for getting Noki? Like, what the hell? Also, welcome in, Nem. Thank you for the contribution to the gummy hunt. I have water. Laundry's been moved. Bathroom happened. I have more water. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we, though? Actually?
Yeah. I got my water as well.
Hello.
I'm doing good on water today.
It's a good day to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Oh. Always forget to unmute. This is fine. We're doing it now.
I've been thinking hard about this, and I really think we should be a thing.
Aw, Trip. Oh no!
Hey, buddy.
It's good to see you, Avi. Really, your goofy
I
face
would
and
just
everything.
throw through a door, I think.
Yeah.
Is it still quiet now?
Sorry about leaving you before. I should have stood by you.
I
It's
turned it
okay,
up just a
Avi.
little bit.
I understand, but thanks for saying that.
I just can't do this
Okay.
now.
Yeah, they were just through a
Oh.
door in a different room.
Hey.
Chip, Look who's here.
Hey, guys.
Hey!
Where have you been?
Trip, at least you told her. But also respect the fact that she said no.
Joan threw me and David in jail.
Be a good guy. Continue to be a good guy, Trip.
So you gave these people more reason to hate us.
Oh, listen.
What is going on here in Richmond? You know more about this place than the rest of us.
We gotta
It's
go.
dangerous for us here.
We should
Right?
not
Gotta
be
go.
here.
That's crazy.
Right?
We're safer here.
Ugh.
Safer than anyone else.
Tell that to my brother. He's still in their custody.
We don't care about
wanna
David
go
being
save
in
my
their
dad.
custody, though.
Right
no,
now.
Gabe.
He needs our help.
No.
It's just too dangerous. The best thing for our family is to get out of here.
Of course you'd say that. You already tried running away once.
Wow.
Have you guys even looked out the window? Go look for yourself.
I've been choosing the not speak option a lot this time, though.
It's never gonna be as good as that one time with Clem.
It was a very good time with
Javi,
Clem.
even if you did get your brother free,
We don't talk to
you're not
cops.
gonna be able to go anywhere.
Wow.
When did
Okay,
this
As much as
happen?
I don't want to be
Right?
here.
You sure
Why
are
did
glad
that
we
come
didn't
from?
stumble into that on our own?
Do you think that's the
Yeah.
horde we left at that gas
Can you
station?
imagine?
Go back.
Would
Sam
have been
Hall's
worth
just
risking
been
it to
following
get
us
away
the
from all
whole
this.
game.
Be able
They
to
are
start
incredibly,
fresh, you and
incredibly
me.
slow.
Brave. Stupid.
Brave.
It seems like we're in danger within this place and without.
Yeah.
I, for one, would feel a whole lot safer with a few more guns to protect ourselves.
That the smartest move to make right now? That's
That's
crazy.
important.
We'll need to make sure we can defend ourselves, no matter what we do next.
I would much rather be out where the zombies are.
Defend.
Zombies are
That's all
predictable.
you're doing? I don't want to risk us losing anybody else.
It's true. Don't talk to cops. Cops are
I know
shit.
where there's guns. My dad showed me.
Hi, Kim.
There are lots. I can take it.
Don't talk to cops.
Okay.
Cops ask you a question.
Sounds
don't
like a
fucking
plan.
say anything to them.
We'll get
I
back
saw
to you as soon as we can.
saw an ad. I think it
Good
was
luck.
recently
Come here.
of like
Kate,
two older folks
Just
being
be
like,
careful.
talking about like how you should respond if cops do anything with you, and it was just shut the fuck up. Cop asks you for directions. Shut the fuck up.
Look,
At a protest,
Javi,
you get
I don't know
arrested.
if
Shut
you
the
heard
fuck
us, but
up.
I think I fucked it up with
Good
Eleanor.
advice.
we can
It's
talk on the
very
Genuinely
good
good
advice.
About that,
Right?
I don't think I can leave this apartment.
Cop
with
comes
things like
around.
this between me
Shut
and her.
the fuck
It's just
up.
not right. I know you must have at least heard something. You know what I mean?
It happens, especially these days.
I think
Don't
he's
worry about
talking about Eleanor,
Thanks.
but I was too busy talking about shutting the fuck up.
Just shouldn't have pushed it with her like I did.
Thank you, her as well.
Wasn't fair.
Okay.
Too much going on already, right?
Javi, come on.
Just
Okay,
give us a minute, pal. I'm sorry, buddy. I don't know what to do.
Is now the you gotta
She
get
doesn't
over it.
want you, Trip. Get over it.
Damn it! I thought you were my friend.
Trip!
Get it.
Don't be that guy.
I'll talk it over with
Trip,
Eleanor
please.
and watch over things here. You've got my word. I won't let anything happen to anyone.
Thank you.
Javi, come on.
Good luck.
Trip. You were cool, and now I'm sketched out.
Yeah. Or a little weird trip.
You know who wouldn't continue to pursue a lady after she says she's not interested? Jesus.
Stay alert.
Jesus would respect a lady saying no.
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Garrus Vicarian.
Great.
Garrus Jesus Vicarian.
Slow down, buddy.
Nobody's
Just
calling
before.
him Garrus anymore. Everyone's
haven't.
calling him Jesus.
Not really.
This archangel thing
decisions
is making much
You
more
make them in a
sense
split
now.
second, and then have to carry them the rest of your life. You
This
understand?
takes place in between Mass Effect 1 and 2.
What do you mean, Javi?
If you get cornered and you feel your life is in danger, then show no mercy. Okay?
This is terrible
You
advice
are
that
more
I've just given
important
this
to me than
child,
any
but
of
that's
these other
okay.
people.
Okay.
Couldn't tell him to trust the right people, because no one here is trustworthy. Slash, I don't think he would trust me then. I'm not the right people.
No mercy, right? If it comes to that, Gabe. But the
Oh,
takeaway from
God.
that was supposed to be to protect yourself first.
It's been 10 seconds, Gabe.
Don't hurt anybody unless you have to.
Jesus? Garrus? Jarrus?
We don't want to make any
Jarrus.
noise and attract any attention.
I can go talk to him while you sneak inside.
That seems like a bad
I'll
idea.
distract him. You won't do anything to me. I'll tell him I saw something suspicious.
Sure, go for it.
Idea, Gabe.
I can do this.
This seems horrible. Do it.
Hey! Oh, hey. I saw something.
Would it kind of... would have made me laugh if it just shot Gabe immediately.
Right? Just walks
I'm
over
sorry,
there. Hey! Whoopsies. Rip Gabe. Would be one less thing for us to have to worry about.
Yeah.
This is fine. Just open the door. Just do the open thing.
Sorry
It's
if you heard
Gabe.
that. I moved my mic a bit.
Heard it a little bit.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's important to move your mic when you need to.
Good work, buddy.
Good job, Gabe. This is the only time you will hear me say that. We just gonna
It's down
sneak
here.
around? If you're gonna talk
The
at
guns are
normal
through that door.
volume, why are we sneaking?
Why are we sneaking so slow?
Locked.
Right?
No time to look for a key either.
Oh, jeez. Oh, no.
This seems like
Have to do this the hard way.
Is not great. That is so loud. Look, if you're gonna make noise, then just make it. Just keep doing it until you're done.
Yeah.
If you keep spreading it out, you're more likely to be heard. Slash had it been Clem, she'd have done it in a hit and a half.
Clem is strong as fuck, we know this.
2 chops Clem. 2 swings Clem? 2 swings. Look at all those guns! Not the bat. No, go get a shotgun. You fucking
You can
idiot.
have the bat, that'll be helpful for zombies, but...
Okay. Not the not the camo gun.
Put these in your bag.
I also like how there was like a kill count on the butt of that gun.
Yeah, but... It will like
never
that
done
when
this
it
before.
were...
Yeah.
That one
me.
dude's special gun.
We
But
made
then
a good
they were
team,
like,
right?
there's been 10 of it.
Uncle Matthew, 1-2 punch.
Not
It's
done
not
yet.
over yet. We need to keep our heads in the game.
Ah, you're right.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Drop it.
It's Lady.
What the hell are you doing here?
I'm stealing your
What are you doing with
weapons.
all that?
Getting guns, what does it look like?
Yeah, it was a shit thing to do, fucking off on me like that.
I know.
Why didn't you meet me at the stronghold? We had a plan.
I was just trying to keep Kate safe. That was the only thing I was thinking about.
Fair enough. I get that. But why should I trust you now?
Oh.
As far as I can tell, you're nothing but trouble.
Yeah. We need you. A lot more than you need us, I know, but we need you.
That's about the most pathetic plea I've ever heard. You're lucky I've got a thing for underdogs. Okay. You know I am.
Ever is convinced.
And it looks like you
Ridiculous.
could use all the help you can get.
Awesome.
I gotta grab something else real quick. Meet me by the front in 5.
Okay.
There can't have been a way to fill that. We tried.
Right? I feel like a lot of the bad decisions that I have been making have still gotten us pretty far.
Get away from me!
Even though, like, I don't want to say I'm intentionally doing it bad, but I'm definitely not trying to do it great. Hey, you should get that knife out of your arm.
You're bleeding. Are you okay? Oh my god.
Not dead yet.
I'm so sorry.
No,
Jeez, I can't leave you guys alone for 2 minutes, can I? You still alive?
Yeah. Just passed out.
Starting to think siding with you might have not been the best idea.
It wasn't at all, Ava. It was a terrible choice. What if I... Okay, we're using the left stick, even though it was moving even before I touched it.
Let me see that wound.
It's bad.
Really bleeding. You're gonna need that taken care of.
We'll get Eleanor to just rub a
Lingard
wet
and
wipe on
David are
it.
Close friends.
Yeah, I'll be
We
fine.
can count on him to help you.
Medical facility's right nearby.
It'll be quiet this time of night too.
We do gotta ask Lingard about Chunky Baby.
Okay.
We do.
But let's be quick.
Also, it's just his arm. Just literally tourniquet it a little bit, or just wrap something around it. It'll be fine. Mike.
Can they really hit targets over a mile away?
Not these, but some models. Javi, it's probably best if Lingard doesn't see these guns. He and David might be tight, but he's still part of Richmond's leadership council.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he was like a pacifist
watch
or
with
some
David.
shit.
Okay.
Do any of them have laser sights?
Not gun nerd.
Yeah, he's too far
Oh.
gone. He's a loner.
Clem?
Shit, Javi, what happened to you?
Got
Ran into a
stabbed
little trouble.
in the arm.
That looks
You
like
wanna
it must
see?
have hurt.
I just need to get it cleaned up.
That's why I like how Lingard's over there
surprised
just
me.
shooting up morphine right
Thought you were
now.
someone else.
Yeah, always.
Looking for something?
Yeah,
Sort of.
looking for my Chunky Baby.
I know this looks bad, but it's not like
It's not like what?
When Clem got
just here to talk
thrown
to
out of the
Lingard about
camp
where AJ
for
is
stealing
now.
medicine.
Anyway,
The
I
doctor
can't leave
was
Richmond with that herd out there.
right there.
Something tells
Yeah.
me Lingard doesn't
Eating
care
all
what
of
you're
the
doing.
drugs.
He's been out of it since I got here.
Yeah.
He's alive.
Very
Bastard.
openly, just eating all
That's
the
gonna
drugs.
need more than
Yeah.
just cleaning, Javi. I can stitch that for you.
Yeah, you
I
can.
can't promise it'll look great once it heals.
All right.
He's drank
for
too
it.
much heroin and now
But
he's
if I lose my
sleeping.
arm, that's on you.
Ha ha.
Sometimes
You'll
you
be
gotta take a
fine.
nap
I've dealt
after
with
you
worse.
shoot up.
Huh. Let me see if I can find
Oh.
a needle and thread for that.
Oh, what
Clem.
happened to your tum-tum?
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
No, you're not.
I started bleeding. I
Oh,
know, it's a thing.
Okay.
I've traveled with women before, and they all had it. What is it? I mean, like, why is it...
are we having this talk right now, Clem?
Don't understand.
It's totally normal. I mean, it's something female women have. It's
I
what's
definitely read that as
not fun.
Fema
I know
woman.
that, but Kate
Fema
manages. You'll be fine too.
Manages. How? I'm
Also, Javi,
bleeding.
it's just anyone who's
It's
got a
supposed to
uterus.
happen.
Just,
You'll
it's
be fine,
okay.
Clem. I promise.
It's just your
Okay.
insides literally destroying
I
themselves
can
because
take
you're
you
not
back to
pregnant.
Kate. She can help you with
Javi, worry about yourself right now.
Sounds weird and dumb. You
need
should
to find
stop
a needle
doing
and thread to
that.
stitch you up
I should
first.
just
That
let me
doesn't
just
worth doing.
let me just tell my body to stop. You're right. It's a waste of time.
Just a big waste of time.
Just
Kinda soon.
oh, no more
Not
periods
what I'm
for
looking
me.
for.
Right? Just uterus things. Oh my god.
Cody. Not much left. It looks like painkillers are in high demand.
I wouldn't steal any medicine if I were you.
Oh, I'm gonna steal it
Really
all.
doesn't go over well.
Oh, I'm gonna steal it all, Clem. We're taking them.
This could come in handy.
Clementine. They're all ours now.
Jackpot. Needle and thread.
Oh, I
All
was like,
sterilized and ready to go.
how do you know it's sterile? It's Javi. Javi.
To just bandaging it until you
Here
can
we
get
go.
somewhere where no one's killing you.
Right? Also, we found some pads. Hey, Clem, I got you covered. Oh, jeez.
Just pills.
Should eat them. Take a handful of them. I'm sure nothing bad will happen.
Wake up.
I'm gonna slap him.
Talk to me.
Holy shit!
That guy is really out of it.
I didn't expect him to react a lot,
Up.
but I did expect
to me.
some sort of reaction.
Dr. Lingard?
That could actually be it, Legis.
Dr. Lingard. Can you hear me?
I'd believe that.
Does he look like he can hear you?
Just because it exists in a hospital doesn't mean it's sterile. Listen. Listen.
Hey, this is just what you're looking for. They help you handle it. Kate'll take care of you.
Think I remember how to do this.
Facts,
Okay.
though.
Let's,
I used to
try
used
not
to
to
work in a
breathe.
bunch of different hospitals, and just like there are procedures
I know I'm
for
probably
making
not the
things
best person to
sterile.
talk to
You
about
never
that stuff
assume that anything is sterile.
You weren't that bad.
Never
Thanks
assume.
for, being here.
Always assume it's filthy.
Basically, all this means is you could become a mom, if you wanted.
That's how you spread
Funny.
plagues.
I already felt like a mom.
Yeah.
Even Ava would have to admit, I was a good mom to AJ.
Flashback time.
Oh, jeez. Did they always do that? I don't remember them always doing that.
I think we
That
only
seemed
did
dramatic.
it once before when she was trying to fill in Javi with what happened to AJ. But even that wasn't nearly as dramatic as this. That is the most dramatic flashback we've had so far. Where did baby go? Wait, or is this after she got run out?
I think it's after.
Okay.
I thought she said it were right after.
Okay. Very bad at keeping track of. I can see it's her.
There.
Eva, you're
Alright,
doing
alright.
a very
It's
bad
just me.
job of hiding.
What the hell do you want?
I know how pissed you are, Clementine. Spitting on David really got that message across.
I'd do it again in a
Believe it or
heartbeat.
not, I'm actually sorry about what happened.
Honestly.
It wasn't easy for any of us.
I'm going to get AJ back. You can't keep me away forever.
That's just not going to happen, Clem. Look, it's not much, but here.
Your poor fingy.
Oh, jeez. I've forgotten about that.
It's not great.
She can only count to 9 now.
9.5? Oh, AJ drew us a picture. Also, candy bar brand candy bar. Gotta love it.
It's my favorite.
I love candy bar. Oh no, excuse me, it's energy bar.
Energy bar.
Energy bar, energy bar. This is fine. Look at the doodle.
David wanted you to have that. AJ drew it just after you.
Oh, that's not what I meant to say.
It's my fault.
I
It was
read that
supposed
as
to be AJ
this is
and
all
me
his
to the
fault.
end. I should have never
I
joined
thought you were
guys.
going to critique
It's not your fault.
the Chunky Baby's
We all
artwork.
tried to
Never!
Just wasn't enough.
Look, kids can't draw
At
for
least you have
shit, but I
someone to
love
rely
that.
on. Listen, it's dangerous out here.
I
And right now,
have...
you're.
Oh my
hurting.
god. So when I was at the daycare,
Whatever you do, you can't let what
just
happened
before
get you.
like my birthday,
You
I
need to
got
keep
sick
the
and I
level
like
head.
couldn't be there. So when I
Plan
got
for after
back
that.
from like being off work
You're
for a little
strong,
bit, the
but
kids
that won't
had
get you far if you don't know what you're doing.
I can
all
make it
of
on
the
my own,
kids
just like
had
I
like
always have.
drawn on a giant poster
don't
for me,
need
but they're
anybody
all
else.
like 2 years
don't
old,
blame
so it's just a bunch of
Just don't
scribbles,
overestimate what
and
you're
it
actually
is
capable
perfect,
of.
and I still have
For
it.
me, staying
It's
alive
really
has always
nice.
been about finding
very
people I
sweet.
can trust as much as they
Oh,
trusted me.
actually.
Right?
That's what the new frontier
Like
is
the
doing.
teachers, or the teacher
Silver
that I
lining.
worked with,
Made me feel worth a
like
damn.
organized it and everything, but it was
Kept
just
me
like
going
super
in the worst of
precious.
You'll find yours.
The kids were so
I know
excited
you
when I came back too. I liked
Someone
that job.
or
It was a
something.
good job.
I used to have Lee.
You never mentioned him.
Yeah, we don't talk
Took
about
care
me
of me for a
anymore.
while. Every
What's
time
wrong?
I would look at AJ, I could hear him in my head, helping me, guiding me.
Also, that
He's
half finger is
still
very
with you,
important.
You know,
In
here.
your boobie?
So is AJ. From the first time we met, right here, surrounded by absolute hell, you and AJ were a light in the darkness. Hope for a better world. That's who you are. Promise me you'll never lose that light. Please. It's what makes you special, Clem.
Okay, I promise.
You're a tough kid. Don't change. I should get back before anyone notices I'm gone. I know you said you'd get by on your own, but if you find yourself needing supplies, or just someone to talk to,
Ava's
there's
pretty
an
cool.
old airfield about 10 or so miles south of here. Prescott.
Yeah, the
There are
scribbles
good
mean
people
nothing,
there.
but they put effort into it, and that's
I'm sure
precious.
they'll help you out. I'll miss having you around,
I
Clem.
love it. I'll shake her hand. Ava's pretty alright.
You're
For
going
being
to
in a
be okay.
cult.
Thanks, Ava.
Good luck out there, Clem.
The shoulder says very bad, good thing.
That's what
Same,
keeps me going.
bestie.
There's things I have to stay alive to do.
Not the very good bad thing. Very bad good thing?
Very bad, good thing.
So,
Very bad good thing.
what do you think? Think I'm getting better.
Nice
Good
work.
Thanks. Just glad I could help.
Help not having to pour peroxide into it. Should probably have poured peroxide into it, though.
You coming?
I still have to ask Lingard about AJ.
Well, it's a good thing he's awake now.
Hello, Clementine.
Where's Chunky Baby?
Javier. Thought you were rotting in a cell with David. There any chance you got
Bro,
out too?
you need some Visine or
I hate to
something.
think about what Joan might do to him. Despite all her pleasantries, she's a cruel bitch.
It's none of your business.
There's no need for that tone. I look like someone who gives a shit what you're up to. Frankly, I've had enough of backstabbing to last me a lifetime.
Why do you care if David got out? He deserves what's coming to him.
If you think that, you don't know David.
I know he's the reason I lost AJ.
When AJ recovered, David was the one who stepped up.
That doesn't make him a good dude, though.
Personal responsibility for that kid.
You say that like it's a good thing. I really doubt he was a positive influence.
You know when that guy stole that baby off you?
David's
He
the
was
reason
nice
the
to
kid's
that
better
baby.
off now than he's ever been. You can be as mad as you want about how things panned out.
Clem can be the judge of that.
She doesn't need to be. As a doctor, I'm telling you.
Stole that baby you
he's in
didn't
better
want, and he
shape
was
now
like,
than
well,
when I
shit,
first
I guess
saw
I gotta look after this
That
baby
was because
now.
he was sick.
What a
He
great
would have stayed
guy!
sick too if I had
After
listened
he
to
finished
you,
waiting for it to
doctor.
die for a while.
Stand by what I said.
If David's taken such good care of him, why did he tell me to ask you where AJ is?
That's
Yeah.
what this is about, then. You want to know where the boy
10 out of
is?
10, dude.
Ray fed and cared for the stolen babu. We'll trust again. No. Never. Never again.
What
Take
do
it
you
away
want?
from him.
I think you probably had enough
I
right now,
just
guy.
Oh.
I want you to inject this into me.
Do it yourself!
You know,
Why don't you do it yourself?
if you're gonna...
I
Can you
can't.
not do it in a way that
I'm
doesn't use all the
fucking
magic
out.
done on?
Right?
When your brother found me, he got me to care about everything I'd given up on. My life. Other people. Even this goddamn place.
You filled that up and now it's empty.
Without him around.
Sir,
I
you
won't
are
care anymore.
bad at...
This is
Just
a
tell me where
trash
he is.
doctor.
It's full now.
I don't have any
The
reason
signs
to do
were
it.
there when we were laughing at the wet wipes lady. And then when he looked at the girl who got shot and was like, holy shit, what doctor did this? They're the best doctor in the world. Yeah, a lady with a wet wipe.
I have to know. I've been looking for too long.
We're gonna refuse him.
now.
You're not gonna make me complicit in this.
I'm sorry,
That-
Clem, we can't do this.
The cabinet was
I have
freaking
to.
out.
If you won't, I will.
Clem, stop.
Oh.
He's not in his right mind. You can't do this.
Wait, I thought Clem didn't want us to kill him.
I'm taking the deal.
We'll find AJ, just not this way.
Wait,
There
no!
is no
Can I
other
go
way.
back? I'll kill him!
Where is...
I thought Clem was saying don't kill him!
Deal.
Fuck! No! Let me kill the man!
Javi, how could you?
I'm sorry! I misunderstood!
So be it.
The trash
It's your
doctor
funeral.
confused the sorry slash.
Especially now. Now that Jones rounding up all alleged traitors.
I no, wait, listen, I'll kill you! I'll do it!
Fine.
Hang in there, buddy.
Oh, hey.
No, let me go back!
Weird.
Surprised to see you here.
Can I? Can I do that again?
That's a straight magician.
Not the misdirection between what he was saying and then Clem being like, no, I need to know where he is. I was like, oh, then don't kill him. Oh god, this put us way back. I'm gonna kill the man.
jeez.
This is horrible.
It's. We're just
You
gonna
would
do a
think-
quick murder. I bet he dies before he tells us anything.
I mean, probably, but also... Shit. Well, then do we want to stick with our option? I don't want Clem to be mad at me. I just want to do what Clem wants.
Ah, kill that guy. He's saying
I just got confused.
what a strange scene.
That was bizarre.
In general, all these characters are so weird.
Honestly.
Who's there?
I just
Alright,
want to... I
alright.
just... There's no
It's
way to
just
skip
me.
dialogue, so we have to listen to all this again. This is fine.
It's fine.
I wanted to kill him. Let's all just
I know
acknowledge
how
the
pissed
fact
you
that
are,
my
Clementine.
immediate reaction was
Spitting
to
on
do a
David
murder.
Really got that message across.
And then Clem was like, I need to
Believe it or
know where
not,
he
I'm
is.
actually
And then I got
sorry
confused.
about what happened. It wasn't easy for any of us.
I'm going to get AJ
Okay,
back.
let's see if I can remember all the
Can't
choices that
keep
we
me
made.
away forever.
That's just
Not that
going to
any of
happen,
us
Clem.
Do it.
Look,
Do it
it's not
yourself.
much, but
Right though? Bruh. I will kill a man in a heartbeat, but also, if you just want to die, that's on you. Don't rope me into it. This is not my business, man. Tootsie brand chili and beans.
Nice.
Love us some chili and beans. Just quickly look at everything. Energy bar brand energy bar. Our favorite.
No, my favorite chocolate bar brand chocolate bars. Never eat an energy bar brand energy bar.
You should try it. They're pretty
David
good.
wanted you to have that. AJ drew it just after you.
I
Well,
failed him. It's my fault.
Stick with all the dialogue choices that
It
we
was
made
supposed to be
before.
AJ and me to the end. I should have never joined you guys.
It's not your fault.
I do think
We
that we
all
will
tried to
be
help.
finishing this today.
It just wasn't
Yeah,
enough.
probably
At
early
least you
too.
have something to remember him by. Listen,
Why
it's
is this a
dangerous out
speeder
here,
in
and
there?
right now
No,
you're
just
hurting.
these have
Whatever
gone by
you
so
do,
quickly.
You can't let what happened get
Yeah,
to
that's
you.
true.
You need to keep a level head.
And we only have one
Plan
episode
for
after this one.
that. You're strong, but that won't get you far if you don't know what you're doing.
I can make it on my own, just like I
You've got
always
golden
have.
light as a backup.
I don't
Mhm,
need
mhm.
anybody
In
else.
case we finish a
I
bit
don't blame
early.
you. Just don't overestimate what you're actually capable of. For me, staying alive has always been about finding people I could trust as much as they trusted me.
Yeah,
That's what the
about
new
that.
frontier has been. A silver lining.
It's
Made
bad
me
there
feel
though,
worth it all.
Ava.
Kept me going in the worst of times.
But
You'll find
Ava,
yours.
they're a cult.
I used to have Lee.
You never mentioned him.
He took care of me for a while. Every time I would look at AJ, I could hear him in my head, helping me, guiding me.
He's still
No.
with you, you know.
No, I don't hate myself enough
Here.
to play a tile game or a children's card game.
So is AJ.
Lee just quit.
From the first time we
Announced
met,
his
right
resignation
here,
from
surrounded
children's
by
card game
absolute
today.
hell. You and AJ were a light in the darkness.
All done?
Yeah.
Hope.
Gameplay's
for a better
too
world.
slow.
I did
That's
see
who you are.
the rant about that.
Promise me you'll never lose that light.
I don't think I saw the conclusion
Please.
though.
It's what makes you special, Clem.
So the rounds do take forever. I'm not about that.
You're
I also
a
just
tough
don't.
kid.
I don't
7
do
minutes
card
is
games.
too long for a turn in a card
I should get
game.
back
That's
before
2
anyone
players.
notices I'm gone.
Let's play that.
I know you said you'd get
Like,
by
I'm not
alone,
here to watch
but
someone play
if you find yourself
solitaire.
needing
We're,
supplies,
we're dueling.
or just someone to talk to.
Make these rounds
There's
quick.
An old airfield.
Know what you're doing or
about
don't.
10 or so miles south of here.
Yeah, get going.
Prescott. There are good people there. I'm sure they'll help you
Aw,
out.
jeez.
I'll miss having you around, Clem.
Very bad good thing.
Right, that's a good thing.
You're going to be okay.
I just want to play more
Thanks,
Wingspan, speaking
Ava.
of card games.
Good luck out there, Clem.
Love Wingspan.
Wingspan's good.
Good game.
That's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
chill.
Things I
So
have
nice.
to stay alive to do.
Right? It's just
Nice
delightful.
birds.
So,
Look at nice
What do you
birds,
think?
listen to good music. Just vibe.
Nice work.
thanks. Just glad I
On
could
some
help.
death metal. Watch the birds headbang.
Yeah! It's a good
You coming?
time.
I still have to ask Lingard about AJ.
Okay, let's do a murder on this man now.
Yeah.
Fuck, that took forever.
Hello, Clementine.
Cabbage man.
Honestly.
Javier. Thought you were rotting in a cell with
Oh
Dave.
boy.
There any chance he got out too? I hate to think about what Joan might do to him.
It's none of your business.
There's There's no need for that tone. I look like someone who gives a shit what you're up to. Frankly, I've had enough of backstabbing to last me a lifetime.
Listen, sir.
Why do you care if David got
Just
out?
let
He
me kill
deserves
you.
What's coming to him?
If you think that, you don't know David.
I know he's the reason I lost AJ.
When AJ recovered, David
This
was
is it, the one guy who likes David. We found him. Now we're gonna kill him.
Right?
You say that
That's
like
what
it's
he
a good thing.
deserves.
I really doubt he was a positive influence.
David's the reason the kid's better off now than he's ever been.
Listen.
You can be as mad as you want about how
Oh, jeez.
how things panned
Yeah,
out.
it's ridiculously slow. I
Fact of the
don't.
matter is, David's been good for AJ.
I'll just watch the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh over and over
Clem,
again,
be the judge of
so I can hear the silly,
doesn't need
not
to be.
matching sounds,
As a doctor,
like bobcat
The best
skeleton,
sounds whenever
he's in
the
better
bird
shape
dragon.
than when I first saw him.
That was because he was sick. He would have stayed sick too if I had listened to you, Doctor.
I
Perfect.
stand by what I said.
I remember the mammoth making a weird
David's
noise
taken
too.
such good care
I
of
don't
him.
remember what
Why
it
didn't you
was,
tell
but it
me
was
to ask
definitely
you where
not
AJ is?
elephant or
That's
elephant
what this is
adjacent.
about, then. You
Someone score a
You
weird
wanna know
bobcat.
where the boy
All the
Yeah.
dragons are birds. The imp is a monkey.
Yeah.
Just a real angry monkey.
What a good time.
The elf mumbles.
What do you want? I just wanna die. I want you to inject this into me.
And then you've got great evil Bakura voice.
Why don't you do it yourself?
And we love it.
I can't. I'm a fucking coward.
And the forbidden voice.
When your brother,
Oh.
We don't talk about the forbidden voice.
he got me to care about everything
Can't.
I've given up on. My life,
Can't talk about it.
other people, even this goddamn place.
Again, empty syringe.
Without him around,
And then it'll suddenly be full again.
I don't want to care anymore.
Still empty there.
Just
And now
tell
it's
me
full.
where he is.
It'd be nice some
Have any
continuity
reason to
errors
do
in your game. Telltale.
The cabinet's still freaking out. Alright. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do a murder. Kill him.
All right, I'll do it.
Where is he?
I love the quote-unquote translated sound effects. They're very good.
He's at the McCarroll Ranch,
Okay.
a few miles west of here.
We actually know!
Really alive.
Also, the smile that Clem just had. It was worth it. It's worth killing this man.
Don't forget to stick around to handle the after part. I don't want to become one of those monsters.
Could just shoot him right now.
Don't forget, Joan's looking for you. And your friends. You better hope she doesn't find
We could
We're
also
actually
just
gonna
leave him.
wait. I said no, we're
No.
in a hurry, and then
We are in a hurry.
decided to stitch
got it.
the wound, and then
Can I not stab him, actually?
can you die here if you don't stab him for long enough?
About to find out. Because, like, I kind of like the idea of letting him turn into a zombie. Wow! What? Hobby! Oh, shit, Clem!
Okay.
Oh,
What?
hey.
Why did you pounce on
Hi,
him?
Clementine.
Surprised to see you here.
Right back at you.
You all good?
Yeah, we're all
Why
set.
mad?
Let's roll.
I liked the idea of letting him turn into a zombie and maybe taking
Good
out
to
a couple
see
of guys.
Yeah, I did as well, honestly. Like, we're getting out of here. This place sucks. Everyone
Right?
wants to murder us. Cause as much
Holy
chaos as possible.
Holy shit. That was so dramatic, too. Yeah, she was eager. She was
Harvey,
like, fuck you, I'm doing this. Rawr!
Clementine,
Thanks for the warm welcome.
Just surprised to see you is all.
Guys, this is Ava.
Oh yeah, I know who she is. She's got a hell of a punch.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you, Ava.
I'm glad that Ava's kind of cool. I was worried about her earlier.
It looks worse than it is. Don't worry about it.
Kate's lying down in the other room for a bit.
Legit, for a
So
second
you
I was
got
like,
the
who's
guns, huh?
Kate?
We got him all right. One for you.
Then I
and
remembered.
One for you. I saved this one for you.
No, I've already got one. Actually, it wouldn't hurt to have another.
You don't have to be nice to him.
What took you so long?
We went to see Dr. Lingard.
At night? I'm kind of surprised he was sober.
Oh, he wasn't.
It's gotta be a stressful job. Looking after an entire community?
Actually, Lingard's dead.
Lingard
Oh my God.
sucked. He was trash at his
He
job
asked
and
me
he's
to
dead
help him end
now.
it, so I...
He's slightly worse at his job as a zombie, but not that much.
I had no idea things had gotten that bad for him.
I
You
guess
didn't
Clem.
even know him! Oh my god. No, he was horrible. Lingard was horrible.
Why don't you go talk to Kate, okay?
Okay.
Wait, why?
The sun will be rising in a few hours. Jones people
Oh,
know we're
right.
holed up here, and they're gonna come looking for us. All
'Cause
of us.
Uterus things.
It's not as bad as we think.
Fucking figures.
Despite the fact that there
going anywhere
are
with those
two
things
other women in the
blocking our
room.
They like me, that has to help somehow.
Just because they like you doesn't mean they're gonna like the rest of us.
We're sitting ducks up here.
I know. We're fucked, okay?
Oh, thanks for that, Javi.
Like we don't know that already? We can't just cut
Everyone
and
is
run.
so
Not with the herd out there. Like it or not,
Everyone
we're
hits
fucking
Javi
stuck
the
in
way it
Richmond.
should be.
Right.
How the fuck are we gonna put the brakes on this
I'm
thing?
glad that I
Joe
have
and her people are going to be at the square,
helped
right?
set this up.
We need to bring the fight to them.
We go after Joan, our problems are solved.
I
Great.
don't.
So, how do we do that?
It's a good question. Joan will probably have a full security.
Shoot her dead.
She'll be insulated from us and from anybody in Richmond who doesn't agree with what she's doing.
We move in fast, guns blazing, and we take her out.
I
Couple of
also
bullets,
miss Lee Fumbles
problem
Everett
solved.
a
After we
lot.
take Joan out, we're gonna need some way out of
Genuinely,
this mess.
Lee Everett
I
is
don't know about the rest of you.
an extremely
Not
good
much of a runner.
character.
We've
Like,
Not even just,
actually
like,
a dolly.
Right,
He's
like not
no
even just
joke.
like within the Walking Dead thing, but just like as a video game
People are gonna
protagonist,
patrol these
he's
streets looking
probably
for us.
one of
How
my
far away is
favorites.
this truck?
I'll show you.
Lee is so good.
Extremely endearing character.
We've been expanding,
Right.
pushing out further, making the
I
safe
love
zone
Lee.
even bigger. Can't promise you they've cleared all the walkers yet, but that's where the truck's parked.
Give
Must
him a
get
bit
some
of
big
a hard
minute.
time
We
for
steal
his,
that
his
thing?
fumbling.
Nothing will be able to stop us.
Steal what?
But Lee is
Hey.
brilliant.
Jesus, Javi. Is that blood on your shirt?
Oh my god, why is everyone freaking out
You
about
said
this
it
blood?
wasn't that bad.
It wasn't.
How the hell did this happen?
Got stabbed in the arm.
You're bleeding right through that bandage.
Things went a little sideways at
It's
the end.
fine. Stop
Blade
touching
got in the way.
it.
A guard came after me and he stabbed me in the shoulder.
I thought you guys were gonna be careful out there.
Wait, what do you mean Gabe got in the way? That's not what I said.
It
I
is
said
what it is.
I got stabbed.
Thought you knew what you were doing.
You're still alive, aren't you?
Eleanor, can you take a look at this?
Right. Listen, I got on birth
As long as
control
he
to
keeps it
stop
clean,
how horrible my
it
cramps
should be
were.
okay.
Would you guys stop making such a big deal about
I
it?
would
It happened.
I would
It's
keel
over.
over during the
Move on
zombie
already.
apocalypse.
I'm just trying to make sure he's okay, Gabe.
Horrible.
What we need to be talking about is the plan. Oh, I have a bunch of ideas. I want to be the one to go after Dad. Just give me a gun and I'll do whatever.
Especially if there's
grown-ups
no
come
one
up
who
with a
can
plan.
tell you
Hey, Gabe.
what's
Because yours is
happening.
gonna be so much better than
Right.
mine.
What to do?
Whatever.
Who's to say you're even coming
I
along?
yeah,
kid?
I can
Are you
only
fucking
imagine
kidding me?
like just starting that during an apocalypse and
Ugh,
just
this is bullshit.
being left to like
not
figure it
staying
all
with you.
out.
Gabe, take a breath.
He's my dad. I'm going.
It's going to
Like
be
I
dangerous
remember
out
being
there.
in middle school
And I
and
don't
having
want
like a bunch
anyone else
of
getting hurt.
people just like suddenly thinking they were dying because they started their
then getting hurt
periods
is
because
worse.
nobody had like explained it
It's
to
worth
them
dying for.
beforehand, and it's like,
This is more important to me.
oh
than anything
boy,
else. I've got a gun and I know how to use it.
Could you
Oh,
do me
boy.
a favor and stop showing off for everybody? You're tough,
okay? You can handle a lot of
There's
shit.
way more
You
like
don't have to
reason
prove it
for
all the
you to
goddamn
think
time.
that you might actually be dying.
Nobody here
Right?
is gonna let you be a martyr, Gabe.
Right?
Your life is precious.
So I'm glad that somebody at
Life
least
is
like
precious?
vaguely
you shot
explained
Conrad,
that
huh?
it's a thing to
Back in the
Clem.
tunnel, when he came after us.
You little fucking asshole!
Oh shit! Sorry.
You shot him.
And then,
You killed him.
okay, yeah, but
What
he
the
was
fuck, Javi?
He had a
Is
gun
she
in
telling
your
the
head.
truth? You murdered
Right.
my
Why?
friend? What the fuck did you do that for?
He had a gun
He
on me.
went weird,
If I
guy.
hadn't killed him,
Conrad
he was
got
gonna shoot
Conrad
Clementine
got
and Gabe.
He's
wacky.
telling the truth. When Conrad found out that I used to run with New Frontier, he went crazy. He would have pulled the trigger, no question.
I guess we'll never know, right? Because he's not here to tell his side of things.
He'd have died
Sure
anyway,
that.
though.
Looks like you're a pretty fucking dangerous person to be around, Javi. First you kill my friend, then you get me and my friends on Jones' shit list?
I think you need to give us some space, Javi.
Fuck that. I don't want to see you ever again.
Okay, bye, Trip.
Maybe I'd be better off with Joan. At least I know she wants to stab me in the back. You get the fuck out and you stay gone, or I can't be held accountable. You feel me?
Also, Ray, way to
We
fucking
can take care
narc.
of ourselves.
I'm sorry it happened the way it did. Really. Conrad wasn't a bad guy. The situation
No,
was
he
just,
he
just fucked.
he kind of went bad.
We better go get that truck.
Yeah,
I'll,
what
get
point?
my
He's
stuff.
got Gabe
I'll
a
call you on the walkie
gunpoint
when I
for
see things
some
getting started in
reason.
the square.
We're just hooting and hollering in the zombie cave.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not the done thing. It's bad apocalypse etiquette.
Just don't do that. That's a thing rude people do.
So rude.
Alright, well that could have gone better.
Clem,
Why aren't we taking
come
Gabe
with me
with
to get the
us?
I don't know.
Gabe, Kate,
Why?
you guys hang back
Horrible.
here. Be ready for anything.
Horrible.
I see what's going on. You're punishing me because I told everyone what you did, right?
I am going to
go
deck
away.
this child.
Go back to
I'm
them.
going
I
to
don't
get the
give a
truck.
shit.
Oh my god.
You stay behind and keep watch.
You proved your fucking point already, Gabe. Now it's time to grow up and help us.
Hey, Gabe, come on. I need you to watch my back on this one.
Yeah. Okay. I guess somebody needs to be a lookout.
Oh my god.
What?
Nothing. Gabe and I will be fine back here.
Clem knew what she was doing. Clem don't like him. He's horrible.
Yeah.
Can I yell at him some more?
What do you want?
Right?
Bobby?
Just like his fucking dad. I hate his dad.
What's your problem, man? Your attitude back in the apartment and out here.
You don't have to say anything. I get it. I screwed up. I shouldn't have said anything about Conrad.
Yeah, you shouldn't
I'm sick
have!
of being pushed aside. I hope you can trust me.
No.
We'll be fine.
Not Larry. We don't like Larrys here.
This looks like one of the areas Richmond is expanding into.
Okay. I thought Clem was a zombie for a second. I got scared.
The zombies are zombies.
Clem's not zombie.
Gotta be careful. Any more muertos pushing, and those boards won't hold up.
Forgot we weren't using the Z word.
Not even using the W word. Can't say any of it. Where are you going, Javi?
This thing looks like it moves too slow for an escape.
They're zombies, though. Okay, can you move, bud? Hey, pal?
What's going on?
Thanks.
The what?
Helping out with Gabe. He's having a rough time.
He's the worst.
Yeah, we all are. I'm just doing what I can.
Let's keep looking for that truck.
Can I tell her to
You got it.
steer clear of Gabe? Hey, Clem, he's an idiot. You can do better.
You've realized Gabe is shit, right?
Right?
You know?
Hey, are we on the same page about this?
Yeah.
Gabe, kind of bad?
There it is. Let's go.
Kind of a Ben, wouldn't you say?
Have a Ben Paul.
Has a potential to be a Ben Paul.
It just razz out for saving him from the crazy man.
Right?
What are the chances?
Ben Paul would do that.
I'd say about 50-50.
He pretty much did!
Yeah.
Smartass.
Except it was, hey, there's bad things happening. I got us all killed. This is my fault. And then everyone died. Look, if the game gave me a choice to kill Gabe, I would fucking do it.
Come on,
We're dropping it down to Bell Tower. Let's go.
Hell yeah. Just let a zombie do it for me.
Can't start the engine. Not without attracting a lot of attention.
Oh no, I've done everything I
The rest of us
could.
are gonna get behind the truck and push. See if we can't get some distance between us and them.
Oh boy.
Ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Let's go. Is it in neutral? Are we ready? Okay. Right? I would absolutely notice a car just creeping away. Even if I wasn't
Sam's
looking
just
directly
going
at
out for a walk. It's fine to do that.
Huh?
They gotta stretch their
I'm just saying,
tires.
I know you didn't want me to come along.
Just push the damn truck. All right?
What do you think I'm doing?
I'm doing all the work. You're the one trying to have a conversation here. That's more like it.
Clem is pushing the majority of the way. We all know
Right.
it.
I think these guys will be able to hear the engine all the way over here.
No, they definitely
I put
will.
it in neutral.
But also, yeah, Clem's doing all the
Couldn't find
heavy
an
heavy
ignition key in
lifting.
there. Guess you'll have to hotwire it.
Perfect. Do we know how to do that?
Try not to shock yourself.
Is that a skill we have?
Shit. I'll need something to strip the wires.
Do you learn
You
this
left
in
all their
bed?
supplies lying around. Bet there'll be some tools out there somewhere.
Just use your
Just
teeth.
try to hurry, okay?
Strip the wires with your teeth. Just chomp on it. Not the gurgling. Give me wire cutters. Jesus, hi! I mean, you're not Jesus, but... I miss Jesus.
Yeah. Could have done a spin kick.
Right? Thrown the hatchet at him and
Keep an
then
eye out while I
grabbed the
get it started,
hatchet and
okay?
killed another
I'll check on the guys
zombie.
in the office.
Yeah.
What a cool guy.
Clem and I will look out for walkers.
Okay.
All
goes.
right. Your wire shouldn't just fall
Wire
out
cutter
like
should
that.
help with this.
Don't think they should be. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to hotwire a car. Which ones am I cutting?
Can we get this wrong? Do you
No,
know
we're cutting
how?
all of them. Okay.
Gotta connect
So-
the battery to the ignition.
something tells me we don't. Okay, they're
Don't
just.
get electrocuted. Don't get electrocuted. Shit. Let there be light.
Oh! I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how this works. Is it fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
You connected it to the zombie switch, I think, by mistake.
Oh.
But other than that...
Why does this car even have that? Wasn't there a recall on that?
Javi, hurry up.
I'm hurrying! Okay. We did it.
Hey, let's go, now!
Uh-oh! Uh-oh!
That's how it started.
I was gonna say, it's because they had the zombie button, isn't it? Or the zombie, yeah.
The square's a couple of blocks away.
They were getting ready to issue the recall, and then the apocalypse occurred.
I'm not about to turn the engine off again.
What now?
We wait for Ava to call us on the walkie.
Uh-oh.
So, nothing for us to do but sit and watch the sun come up.
Well, I know we've got something important to do. I'm teaching you to play euchre.
That's
Now?
not a real thing.
It's a card game. Come on, it's fun.
It's nice to be driving around with a couple kids in the back seat again. Really takes you back, doesn't it? Just you and me and Gabe and Mari.
Ah, yes. The days of scrubbing up Chuck out of the upholstery. I don't miss that.
Thank you for
I
the
never
hydrate
realized
now.
just how much kids could vomit until I was trapped in a car with them 24/7. Or
Why are
how
these kids
far.
throwing up as much as they
Gotcha.
were?
Come
Why?
on. That's not even a good rule.
Still gotcha.
Guess he stopped playing it cool with her. In case you haven't noticed, Gabe's got a little crush on Clementine.
That's because Clementine is dope as
He
fuck,
likes
but
her.
also...
You get it?
As long as it doesn't go anywhere.
Come on.
But she can
And
do
you don't
better.
think they're adorable together?
No!
Complicated, Kate. Clem's got history.
We've all got history, Javi. Every single
Stop doing
one of
that
us.
weird hetero bullshit that you do.
It's so normal, you know? Like, as crazy as things get, as terrible and tragic and just...
You also realize he could just be really excited that there's another kid his age that's not his sister around.
falling for each other.
Oh my
Not
god.
that they're there yet. But to feel something that intensely for another person, kind of like the best drug there is.
That's true, though, if you were, like, stuck around
one of the best
weird
drugs.
old dudes all the time. You actually met a kid your age.
It's unfair. That's all I'm
You
saying.
can play games and stuff.
That
I'd
they're
be
feeling
so
what they're
fucking
feeling right now,
pumped.
and
Yeah.
when the sun gets a little higher,
It's just
right
like,
back to the
look,
fight.
they've just met, and sure, even if
I
it
just
is like
wish
a crush,
I
it's
could've had
like,
a childhood.
has he met any other children his age
I wish I could
recently?
Him and Mari, both.
All the
Oh,
wishing in
kids
the world
around.
isn't gonna change what the world is
Right?
now.
Just
Nobody gets to
Yeah,
be a
because
kid
any
anymore.
kids that have been
Hell,
fucking
you're lucky if you get to grow up.
Clem's
You're
age
right.
during the
I know
initial
you're right.
apocalypse. Like,
and how many of those have
No.
survived?
yeah.
Having you there with
We've
me,
seen at
right
least
by my
3
side all
die.
this time. That's what made the difference.
We have actively done a murder on at least
You're so
3
sure
children.
of what you're doing all this for. You didn't run away. You could have.
Yeah, okay. I
But you
don't
didn't.
want to engage in this conversation with you.
I know
Speaking
you have
of
your reasons.
not wanting to force
You don't have to
relationships
share.
on people.
Yeah.
There's no graceful way to say this. so
Kate, I am
I'm just gonna
not
say,
interested.
I know we've had moments,
No,
You and I.
no, you've imagined it all.
and they're always a little hot and a little confusing, and
I'm worried the
maybe
option's
some of
gonna
them
be that,
haven't
like,
meant anything at
you
all.
say, yes, I'm in
But
love with you, or no, you
before
still
whatever
love your
happens
husband,
tomorrow,
David.
Yeah.
That's not gonna
I
be
need
an
you to
option
know.
3.
Whatever
What
this
if there's
thing
silence?
is between us,
Just
Ooh la
silence.
la! Thank you for the follow!
and I know the fact that David is back in our lives
Yeah,
now
I don't
makes
want...
this whole thing a little more.
It doesn't make it complicated.
But
We hate
Do you feel
David.
the same way?
No!
I'd really like to know.
Oh god, I was
Before
right.
things get crazy.
Oh no, okay.
I'm sorry, Kate.
We can just say
Oh.
no. That's good.
Right?
God.
Also, KentiX822, thank you for the
just-
follow as well.
Can't see it between us.
So, all those times you said stuff, I was just imagining it?
Yes.
Years together, on the road. The looks. The hints of something more.
Listen, it's been a
Friends,
lonely
Kate.
4 years.
Hell, you're probably my best friend. But I don't see you as anything more than that.
I guess a part of me always knew you didn't feel the same way.
I hate this.
God knows I pushed you a couple times, but you always said no. I guess I have to finally listen. Javi,
I would like to not be in this conversation anymore.
to hang David in front of the whole crowd. Don't bring the truck.
I said it and then realized how awkward it was. I thought I meant something different about my gun.
Now.
that one was an accident.
That
the rest
was
of the
an
time we didn't
accident.
engage.
I thought I meant my gun and not my penis. Whoopsies.
Keep the walkie close by. I'll tell you as soon as we've got David. Then you can drive into the square and pick us up.
Will she though?
It's probably better that you stay here, considering you won't say a single word to me.
Oh, I'll say a word to you, all right.
Oh
But I'm pretty sure you're not gonna like it.
Just stay out of sight.
Is she really gonna, like, get mad at us? Are you kidding me? Oh, I hate all of these people. Honestly!
Got cut off by something. Or somebody.
Sorry, just jeez.
Wish we had some idea of what we're heading into. Like, is the whole plan shot? Or did she just have a little setback?
I'm getting a little worried about Ava. Something must have gone wrong. Something must have happened.
Let's just leave Kate and
Not gonna know
focus
what went
on
wrong
the task
until
at
we
hand.
actually do this thing. So let's do it
Yeah.
already.
Oh.
Ready?
We just have to remember, if we're going to do something risky,
We've got to make sure we protected ourselves.
exactly. If we're gonna get Dad back, we can't fight fair.
Ew, gross.
We're on a mission to get David back. Our favorite.
No. Not. Look, there's a difference between, like, endearing weird and just weird. And these people are just weird. I like all the blurry people in the background.
Can't wait for the others, can we?
For years now, Richmond has been governed by one simple principle.
Kick her in the head, David.
Council, strong
Like, she's gonna kill you anyway, so just, like, go out swinging.
the actions
It's a
of one of the
funny
members of that council,
gallows joke.
our security expert, David Garcia, have put us all
She's
in...
lying to all of you.
I'm sorry to have to show you this. Truly, I am. But you all need to see. Just look what he's done.
This is... that...
He murdered these men in cold blood. I saw him.
Wait,
murder
Lingard's
blood
there!
with my own eyes. Some of the best men I ever knew.
Why is Lingard there?
Is this who we want in charge? Someone this reckless.
Just brow the
This
corpses for the big
cruel.
surprise reveal.
If I
Right?
have anything to do with it.
Oh, again, the 2D flat, blurry people in the background. There were
She
twins
can't do
back
this to
there.
him. He's kept him safe.
No,
I
he
think she's
hasn't.
bluffing. It's a scare tactic. There's no way she's really gonna execute David.
I trust Lady. This is fine.
Javier,
Wouldn't even worry
I
about it.
heard you were planning to crash our little party. Why did you come on up here? Show your face to everyone. I'm sure these people would like to hear what you have to say.
Fuck that, and fuck you, Joan.
I don't have anything to say to someone who shit talks my family.
Don't make this harder on yourself, Javier. Get up here. Now.
No.
She knows we're here now. We might as well.
Yeah, well, we weren't exactly, like, hiding.
Don't you think would have been a bit sneakier about this?
Right?
Dr. Lingard.
I thought he killed Dr. Lingard. I thought that was why Dr. Lingard's cops was here.
The only surgeon in a 100-mile radius, but you didn't care about that.
Dr. Lingard had a problem. He couldn't stay out of his own supply. He asked me to put him out of his misery. I was only doing what he wanted.
Sorry if I don't take your word for it. Too bad you killed the only man who could back up your story.
Well,
I had a very interesting conversation with your friend Eleanor last night. She was the one who alerted us to David's plot against Lingard. Isn't that right, Eleanor?
We did.
She said you were coming here today to take me out. Add to your total. Don't know how you thought you were going to pull it off.
And that's exactly what
He
I'm
literally did die of an
Appreciate the
overdose.
honesty.
Right?
Which makes this so
He died of
much
an overdose. Well, he died of an overdose and then we stabbed him in the brain so he wouldn't become a zombie.
Don't last long.
But we killed him.
Get away from me.
You're making a mistake.
Why is Trip there?
They had them this whole time.
David wanted to tear this whole place
Wait,
down.
why is Trip
He told
there?
people where to find our gun supply, and sure enough, they picked us clean. You really thought you could ride into town and stay
Wow,
at
Trip,
home
it's almost like Eleanor was a
without
bad
our damn
idea.
weapons? Something like that? I can't just let it go.
I am a little upset that Ava's up there.
Put me in a no-win situation here. So I'm gonna do the same thing to
Other
you.
man is dubious.
Both of them deserve to die for their crimes.
He's
However,
not so certain.
Javi, I'll let you spare one of them. Just one. No!
Oh, shit.
Don't! Don't! Not after what they tried to do. You may be guilty of bringing them into this, but they chose to go along with it.
If you're gonna punish anyone, it should be me, not them.
So ready to sacrifice yourself for others. Don't worry, Javi. I'm not through with you yet.
Joan, are you sure about this? We never agreed to killing all these people.
Right?
It's
Joan, this
really
is
up to Javi, isn't it?
not
All
what
eyes
normal
are
people
on you.
do.
Maybe this will help you make up your mind. Boys? Come on, Javi. Who's it gonna be? Your friend?
Oh,
Or
shit.
your brother's lieutenant?
Oh, come on! This is fucking stupid.
You can't be serious. God damn you, Joan.
Trip's been a bit weird recently.
Yeah, yes. Okay, we're doing Ava. My
Just liked him because he's a large lad. And he was
Yeah.
cool with that.
Hobby I know. Backstabbing,
Oh my God, get over
double-crossing,
it.
no good, dirty fucking murder.
Such language. But I admire the sacrifice.
I just
you're making
like
here, Javi.
I don't like the fact that they're
Shoot her.
framing Ava as like
Shoot Ava.
You did, but there's something else you need to understand.
Oh,
Betrayal.
Are you shitting me?
Think about what you're doing. Ava's one of us.
Are
can't
you
fucking do
shitting
this.
me?
This is fucked.
This is
I can
fucked.
do anything I want. You brought this on yourself. Do it.
You can't. No!
Oh my god.
I hate everything. I hate everything.
Now, David, it's your turn.
Guy at the furthest back guy with the sword.
This isn't how we do
Right.
things.
Pretending
This
to
is mad.
contribute to this.
Stop her, Clint. Is this the process you trusted?
No. Think about this, Javi. You know what's gonna happen here. You ready for that?
We don't murder in Richmond. We exile. That's how we've always done things. How
I
about
hate
you take
this.
David
People
and the
are
rest of your
weird.
people and
Right?
just get the hell out. Go far away from Richmond, and then whatever you do is up to you.
I'm sure the herd outside would like that.
She thinks she's sending us out there to die.
She's counting on it.
Everybody put your guns away. We're gonna handle
Oh,
this.
Clint's gonna get shot. Or maybe not.
Don't listen to them, Javi. They're fucking butchers, all of them. Shoot that bitch. Take her out. She deserves it.
Ah!
Don't do it. I fucking will.
I don't. I'm gonna take the deal. I don't want to do it because David wants me to do it.
Right now.
Yeah. A tough choice. Do you shoot one of the people who sucks, or do you do, even though David wants you to? Or do you go against what David's saying?
I mean, I feel like this entire thing has just shown how horrible. If David's gonna do it, David's gonna fucking do it. How did that gun appear in his hand? Why are we shooting Clint?
Take your deal and shove it.
Why are liars, Clint? All of them.
One step closer and I kill him. I swear I will.
Go ahead and
Why are you
shoot them.
killing
I
Clint?
warned you.
You're supposed to be killing her.
Right?
Now you're fucking everything up. Sorry.
Oh
little
my
brother.
god.
She's not gonna win. I can't let her.
Scream. Right, you were supposed to grab Joan, you fucking idiot. Oh,
Grab Clint and then just shoot Joan.
This is. Oh, Ava, your arm is going through the ground. No! I considered not doing anything there. Genuinely considered, but I figured it would give me like a game over.
Yeah, probably that David has been killed, game over, which would be the worst kind of game over.
Fucking hack! Get back here! Okay, I need you to cover me. We gotta make things right.
No, Gabe, don't do it.
Okay.
No, your dad's shit. You just.
Dad needs us. We gotta get out there.
No.
David's not thinking right. What's worth more? His revenge or your life?
I think you're right.
Okay, good. I mean, if Gabe died, oh well, but like, at least he is capable of seeing reason.
He's not all the way gone to Warner, though.
Right? There is a chance he can be pulled back. Oh, we gotta save Clem.
Seriously infected, but...
God damn it! Just go. I'll try and cover you.
Thanks, Trip. How do I know you're not gonna shoot me? You've had some very choice words about me recently.
I knew David was gonna do something to fuck this up.
Yeah.
I told you what he was like. When are you gonna start believing
No,
me?
Clem, I was with you the whole time.
Fire! What the hell is going on over there? Are you guys okay?
It's all bad.
Do you need a pickup?
Can't talk. Try to avoid getting shot.
No, Travis.
It's too loud.
Not. Everything is horrible. It's all bad here. I was like, are we just gonna stare into each other's eyes for a minute?
He picked silence as his response to you showing up.
That's fair.
Always a valid response.
Always. She can't see you. You can't just. Oh god. Well, this is fine.
Is everyone fighting us, or is everyone just fighting everyone?
Oh god.
I think everyone's fighting everyone at this point. Oh!
Oh, dang.
Rip Kate.
Kate!
She's dead. She's fucking dead.
I think Cat might be dead. It counts Cat's dead.
Oh my god. Zombies, you're so loud. Kate's stupid enough that I feel like she would absolutely slam on the accelerator after her car is on fire.
You go faster so the wind puts out the fire.
Yeah. Sorry, Travis. Also, why did everyone agree to listen?
Why is everyone being nice to David in these bits where he's so odd?
I don't know. Oh, jeez. What? Why would people tell Kate that they have feelings for her? She's the worst! This is horrible.
You just, like, feel like that's what you're supposed to click, so people
No.
just click you without thinking.
No. We were very much on the minority side this time.
I'm not, like, super surprised about the one with Kate, but I am very surprised about the first one with David. Like,
Yeah.
that's just... David's so strange in that bit, and he's, like... He's really dramatic about everything and makes it all about him, and it's like, you just need to tell this guy to fuck off.
Right?
He's a lost cause.
Horrible. Okay. We've got more than enough time to do this.
Yeah,
Should
quick break,
we...
and then...
Yeah. Let's do a quick break. And then we'll finish this out. Also, Kate is kind of hot,
I
literally.
got
It's a funny joke because she's on fire. Because Kate is on fire, and that's funny to us. Because of the explosion, and explosions and fire are usually hot, and we're talking about romancing her, which is also sometimes described as hot, and so it's this funny joke. We're gonna take a break. We will be right back.
Can also mean of extremely high temperature.
It's we're gonna go. I gotta go. I'm leaving.
let's bring that beat back.
All right. We good? We ready?
I'm here. I had muted my own microphone and I forgot. But other than that,
Perfect.
right.
It's a good thing you figured it out. Sorry, I needed to realize that it had been a bit since I've had food, and so I did a quick eat, and I feel much better already.
That sounds important.
Just kinda important. Yeah, I haven't eaten since like 9:30 this morning. It's been a bit. It's now 4:30. It was time for a food.
It's 10:30.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. My bad.
On The Walking Dead.
We know I'm terrible. There we go. I should probably put that on the proper screen. We know I'm bad at telling time.
Between us, I
The
want to
video
give it a
didn't stop for me. This is great.
And I know the fact that David is back in our lives.
Regis,
now
have you
makes
considered
this
doing a sleep?
Whole thing a little more
Oh, jeez.
complicated. But
hey, Regis.
Do you feel the same way?
I'm sorry,
Hey, buddy.
Kate.
Hey, pal.
God.
I just can't see it between us.
Oh, jeez.
Look what he's done.
Everything is awful. Skeet up, but awful.
I had a very interesting conversation with your friend Eleanor.
I was gonna try and do the "Everything is Awesome" song, and then it
Eleanor.
ended up being.
We did.
Have you checked your butthole?
You've put me in a no-win situation here. Both of them deserve to
Regis's
die for
team
their crimes.
was
However,
routed in the Mahjong
I'll let
tournament.
you spare one of them.
Deeply
Ugh.
tragic.
One.
Let Ava
Sad.
live.
Yeah.
Shoot her.
Wait! I said don't shoot
It
Ava!
is true. We know that Adrian is alive, and we know where he is. So it's not all
How
bad,
about
but
you
it's
take
it's
David
pretty
and the
dang
rest of
bad.
your people and
Have
just
to
get the
find
hell
Chunky
out.
Baby.
We're leaving.
It's
All of us.
very important
Right
that we
now.
find the chunky baby. Got a piece of hair behind my ear, and it's being weird, and I need it to not be there.
It's
Please.
Kate.
Oh my
She's
god.
coming for us.
Please.
Oh shit!
It was like caught between my headphones and my the ear of my glasses. It was horrible.
Kate!
Kate's dead, Travis. Are you implying that Trip is gonna get with a dead body, or that Trip is going to die? Because one of those is more preferable than the other. It's Trip dying. That's the more preferable option. I felt like I needed to clarify that. I got concerned with what I said. So I
While we're
just
still
needed
breathing,
to,
Javi,
to,
I'm
to
letting
make
the
it make
bones
sense.
speak to me. Oh my god.
Oh, I think I can hear them. They're saying, "You're gonna lose, come mierda, so play already."
I must have inherited patience from Ma. Oh, come on, man.
Calm down, David. No one is ever in a rush to lose.
Does it matter?
If he plays his last bomb... You're out of the will, Javier.
Kicked out of baseball.
Yeah, we
Can't
would
play
have been
dominoes.
fucked either way.
What exactly are you good at again, Javi? At least I can actually play baseball. Slugger.
That's enough, both of you. It's not Javi's fault he's a disgrace to the game of dominoes.
I won. That's $10 you owe me. Both of you. I know you're broke, Javi, You should sit out the next game, since we all know I'm gonna win.
I think he's
No
cheating.
shame in surrender. We'd all understand.
Got
don't
like
break your
a
hand patting yourself on the
thingy up
back.
his sleeve, like Bandit
I'll beat
Keith,
you
that
next
just
time.
passes him all the best
Did you really
dominoes.
be betting on these games? Isn't that what got you in trouble?
It's
to
very
begin with?
long, which is how it fits to his tiny sleeve.
No, keep on talking, David.
Hey, this is
You just
Tony.
occasionally see him like
Winning
lean over
means you
and
get to
wiggle a
be
little bit.
bit of a pendejo.
Pay up, little brother, if you can.
I'll cover for Javier.
Oh, is it your
I
turn to
just
do that
things
now?
involving
I
tiles.
lost
You-
track.
Count me out.
Poor, helpless Javi.
Get my wallet, mijo.
Keep an eye on him. You don't want him snatching an extra 20 for gas money.
It's on the counter.
Yeah, sure, Pa.
I was about to ask, why is David being such a dick?
Pa?
And then I remembered.
What's this? Hey, man, I was reading that. What? What's up? What the fuck is this?
None of your business.
He has cancer. What? Bob, really?
I'm old. Old people get cancer. You didn't need to know.
He's
That's
not
for you to
incorrect.
decide. Jesus, Pa. I'm so sorry.
No, Jesus is elsewhere.
Be sorry for your domino skills.
How bad?
It's okay, mijo. Ask me.
How bad is it?
You won't have to
The dad
worry
kinda
about paying me
owns.
back for $10.
Right?
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, Pa.
Hey, settle, David. Now,
Cool dad.
You haven't told Mama.
and neither will either of you. You hear me? Mouth shut.
Whatever you want, Pa. I won't say a word.
You should probably tell your wife.
Of course, I have to be the one who tells her. Am I the only one here with any sense of responsibility?
David,
You're gonna
don't
need her
take
help
this
with this, Pa. Driving you
self-righteous
to the
bullshit.
doctor, getting prescriptions. Wait, what are your options? Treatment, stuff like that.
Chemo, radiation, all that expensive mierda.
Great. When do you start?
I turned it down.
Turned it down? You don't get to turn it down.
So much money and for what? Another month. Another game of dominoes to lose? It's not worth it.
If I was still playing ball, I could have paid for it. I'll pay for it.
It's not happening. Save your money.
Fuck the money. I can afford it.
You can afford it, David. But my pride can't. Let's play another game.
You are a fucking coward. A
Wow!
selfish coward. Javi, can you
Holy
believe this shit?
shit.
What the fuck, David? Apologize
David
now.
sucks.
Sit down,
Right?
both of you. You know, I pray for daughters. Every night your mother was pregnant with both of you. Please, God, a daughter. Anything but a son. Anything but another me. Anything but another hot-headed idiot with his heart in the right place. Anything but another foolhardy, handsome gambler. Anything at all.
Please, Papa. Don't give up. Fight.
Ugh.
Fight for our name. For our blood. For our family.
Bruh.
Please, fight. It's your life, Pa. Live it however you want. Or as long as you want. You're both the same. Only thinking about yourselves.
Good, I'm glad David felt betrayed. Fuck David. Sorry, I have a lot of feelings around family members specifically getting pissed off
Don't worry,
at,
Pa.
at their family members who have cancer not accepting treatment. That's up to them.
I'm on your side.
Still,
They are not obligated to do anything
I'm
for
gonna be
you.
a name carved in stone before you know it, Javier.
Chemo
That'll be
treatment
me.
fucking sucks
Letters
and
on
is
a
a
rock that
miserable
nobody wants to
experience.
visit. I know you
If
think
that
you're
person
strong
doesn't want to
enough
go through it,
handle that
you
alone.
can't make them.
And so does your brother. And you're both wrong. You have to take care of each other. You two are all
Anyway.
to leave behind. Like Gabe and Mariana will be for David. Legacy, Javier. It's all anyone leaves behind. That and their bones. Be brothers.
Before
No.
it's too late.
Sorry, Dad. That's not
That's not
happening.
too much to ask. One last favor for your old man.
If he tries, I'll try too. That's the best I can do.
He will try, Javier.
No, he
If you
won't.
show him the way. I still need to pay David.
Pa.
Oye, if you had just won the game, we wouldn't have had this problem.
So you're blaming me for all this?
I'm depending on you, mijo. We both are.
Mama. Alright, back to the mayhem. Kate's dead. Don't worry about it. It's fine, Javi.
Oh god, did she actually survive?
Oh no. I hope not. Like, genuinely, I want her to be dead. Just make it easy for all of us.
It does just seem wrong, but like, in Walking Dead, something like that's happened and then them just be fine afterwards.
Yeah.
I feel like anyone could die at any point.
Yeah. Alright, zombie please. Zombie please. Your insides are outside now. She's not even in there, is she?
Kate!
No.
Kate!
How would no
She
way.
wouldn't! She wouldn't! Absolutely would not.
It's an armored van, but a petrol tanker blew up in front of it. And it was on fire.
Where's Kate? She's not here. She must have gotten out.
Why are we still talking to him?
You've gotten her. We're here because of you. If something happens to her, that's on you. I didn't start this hobby. You did.
Oh my god.
Kate! Kate!
Can we just forget about her?
Kate!
Oh.
David, wait!
Nah, just let him. That's not her, is it? What if I just let him get chomped? Oh, I get chomped. Okay.
Unbelievable.
Kate!
Seemed incorrect, but
Kate!
that's not her because she had her hair in a braid.
Kate!
It's the same shirt, but
Zombie stole.
It's like, hey, nice duds.
You know the love to steal clothes from Zomboid.
Honestly,
Don't worry.
though.
I'm sure you had that handled.
Ugh.
Kate, I'm so glad.
You okay? Good. Shit, that was too close. This has all gone to hell.
I'm not your friend.
You before she did.
Also, the fact that he couldn't even, like, recognize his wife is very funny to me.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get yourselves killed?
I'm not doing anything, dude.
There's Gabe and Clem.
Just remember she had that show.
I don't even think it's the same shirt, though. Like, hers is more pink.
Get the knee, like this.
Clem over here teaching the good moves.
I got a great teacher.
Oh my god. Stop.
You guys all right?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
We gotta go.
Look at them. There's so many.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Get in.
Oh, jeez. It's the last episode. Are we ready for this weird, wild ride to be done?
Yeah, I hope so.
I just want to know where Chunky Baby is. I don't want to be here in Richmond anymore.
Baby.
Right?
I don't care what you think.
Gabriel, do not take that tone with me.
You murdered that man after they let you go. You're a
Yeah.
killer. Just like they said.
Yeah.
You did that?
You don't understand. It was them or us.
Clint was
I
gonna
had
let
to
us.
do it.
Oh
They
my
would never let
god.
us go. They still would have killed us, sooner or later.
They were negotiating with us, David. Doing that to Clint wasn't necessary.
That's how
Remember
you
how we should have done that to
I would
Joan?
do it again.
Yeah, she just shot the person he was trying to shoot and not just.
Hold on a second, Lummy is struggling. What are you doing? No, excuse you. That box is not for you, baby. Oh, thank you. What's some treaties? Is this what you're trying to get at? Here you go. Look, I'll even give you a little extra food. Sorry.
Gotta look after Llama.
Here you go. Now you can stop being a turd hole. Here's the joke. You won't stop being a turd hole. Ever. That box goes there now. Okay. What were you saying, Fruity?
I don't remember.
Okay. Sorry.
It's fine.
You are my son. I am doing
Probably
what
wasn't
any
fun.
parent would do to keep you safe. You do not get to judge my actions.
I thought she was having an
Do you
issue
hear
jumping
me?
up onto the bed,
Hey,
but
you
it
do
was just
not
her
walk
knocking
away
the
from
box
me.
out of the
When someone speaks to you,
out of the side
you
table.
stand up and answer them.
David, that's enough. He's not a little boy. He doesn't need that from you.
What he needs is to learn to keep his opinions to himself until he understands what the hell he's talking about.
I mean, yes, but also
I'm trying to protect you, Gabe. I lost you once. I won't let it happen again. Okay?
We made it through alive. Let's just be glad about that.
We need to check the other entrances. Make sure we're safe.
we aren't.
Gabe, wanna help me out?
Spoiler alert.
Javi?
Gabriel.
I'll help you, Gabe. Let's go.
No. We don't need you.
I'll help too.
Okay.
LOL. Fuck you, David. Because that's not what children do to their fathers.
Clem's with them. It's fine.
It's not that. It's... Let's just...
Hate David here. Literally anything
I'm
to
all
just
over the
be
place. I need
contrary
to
to
focus on
him.
something. Anything. Just need to focus. On whatever.
Let's see if there are any other survivors. It'd be good to know who's still around.
I don't want to think about how many people may have just died.
Then don't!
But I guess I'm gonna have to find out eventually. Let's go.
Kate, why are you... What is your problem?
Oh my god. This is a fucking nightmare.
Mommy, it's them.
I'm glad Mariana didn't live to see this. To see what her
Okay.
father's become. To see what I've done. She'd be just like that little boy.
What have you done?
Scared of the monsters
Aside from sit in a
coming after her
car
next.
and be weird.
Crashed a car and
never
survived
trust
an
us
explosion inexplicably, and nice.
Leave Mariana where she is.
Right?
What are we talking
So many
about?
children became orphans today because of us.
Oh my god.
How many
Probably
parents
like
are now
3.
childless?
Probably also like 3. It's fine.
I did this to them. That hole is there because of me.
What
This is the world we live in now. If it wasn't this today,
I mean, if
it'd
the
be some
one
other shitty thing tomorrow.
busy
The
being
world
bad,
didn't
they
do
could have
this.
probably
I
got the
did.
hole plugged up
I
before
can't leave until
everyone
I
got
fix right.
got.
All of this. Let's fix this. as best we
Colts.
can.
We're busy just shooting each
Did
other
you not see it out
for
there?
reasons.
It may not be something we can fix.
Someone's gotta try.
It doesn't have to be us! I don't understand any of these people.
No.
Ew! We're gonna kill Eleanor, right? Like, we're gonna kill Eleanor, right?
You've got a lot of nerve showing up here after the bullshit you pulled. You're unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Oh, I've got a lot of nerve. Everything that happened is
Javi
because
went
of
from
you.
like 1
This
to
is all
100
your
real
fault.
fast.
I told you, I wanted you out of my life after what you did to Conrad.
Why did you tell Joan what we were doing?
I was triaging a bad situation. Their doctor is dead. And before you guys fucked it up, their walls worked. It's not only about me.
Yeah, she was crazy.
I
And
can
she did
actually
crazy
save
person
lives
things.
here.
And we could have just
Not
not.
just stitch them up
Right?
and hope for the best. These people will die without me, Javi.
These people are gonna die anyway.
Well, fucked us over. But she's trying to help them. She's trying to make something right. That's worth forgiving, right? She's trying. That counts.
She's doing a good thing now. But she's got a long way to go before I forgive her.
You're one to talk.
Why is this the conversation?
We should try to help.
Like,
I don't
Not
know.
everyone
I
here
don't
is
know.
Obviously, we're never trusting her again. I mean,
Right?
Right behind me.
I'm sorry. I
And,
haven't seen
like,
any little girls.
we need to leave, and she's not coming with us. Is what I think of the
She
situation.
knew Rufus.
Absolutely.
He was her husband. Until you shot him in the back.
Oh my god. Fuck off,
She's
David.
one of my people, Eleanor. What's going on with her?
She'll be alright. She's not bitten or anything. She lost her daughter out there.
It's just tons of psychological damage.
I'm so sorry.
Poor woman.
Give her some privacy. It's the least we can do.
No, we're all five just gonna stand here and stare at her.
Okay. Well,
What the?
We're all fucking dead because of you.
Hey, easy.
You're a weird
Blew a hole
thing.
in our wall.
Right?
Got a little girl killed. Richmond was fine until your.
She's not even pointing at
Yeah,
We're
it's a
still
dumbass.
fucking meat, David. Might as well take out this asshole while I can.
Fern,
Shut up.
I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm so sorry about your daughter.
You can apologize to your face.
It was
in just a
David's
second.
fault. Like, we
Stand
realize that, right?
That's
Like, if
an
we're gonna
order.
blame anyone for this, it was
Kate,
David, right?
No.
Fern, this is all because of me.
Keep thinking she's
How?
aiming at
Caused
David
the
'cause she's
explosion.
wiggling the gun so
I
much.
killed your daughter.
Right.
Please, forgive me. It's my fault. Please,
Oh, wait, is it because she's the one who blew the hole in the wall?
please. From a mother
Well,
to a mother.
technically, but she wouldn't have blown the hole in the wall if Karen had been on fire because someone threw a
Yeah,
Molotov
yeah,
at
no,
her.
no, definitely. I guess I'm just trying to, like, understand why she— What the fuck, David?
Oh my god.
Oh my God, Dad,
You're welcome, Javi.
that dead guy.
David, what are you doing?
This isn't right.
David!
Did you really need to break her arm? That wasn't necessary.
Okay? Don't thank me.
Holy shit! Shoot him. No! Okay.
David!
Whoa!
Gabe! I'm sorry, that was an accident.
You were going to kill her.
She was going for her gun.
Look at her.
Gabe,
She can't even stand up. What the hell is wrong with you?
It was over the line, Gabe. You're right.
I was worried that he was gonna yell at Gabe.
Gabe. I'm sorry. I didn't
Gabe,
mean to
how
do
dare
that to
you talk to your father that way?
I know that.
Holy shit.
Why the hell are you all
Silence
looking
is a
at me
valid
that way?
option,
They're just-
by the way.
They're scared, David.
They're scared of you, David.
What? I'm protecting them.
Why are
No.
you pointing a gun at us?
Oh yeah,
So I'm all alone.
you're right.
David, you're kind of shit. wonder if this is supposed to be like a moment where they like
You people are on your own.
really solidify that David's a bad guy for all those people that like were siding with him before, to which it's like, how did you not see it? He's been shit the whole time?
I've seen that look in his eyes before. You should go after him.
No! No! I don't want to talk to him.
When like the first scene in the game was just a really long, weird bit with David being angry. And then like the second bit with him in it where when he
What are you
were
doing?
abusing his wife.
Right?
And it's like
Thinking it over isn't
maybe
gonna
if
do you any favors.
the writing was really,
You
really
wanna jump?
good, that could bring it back from that and humanize him, but it's not
over
good
here.
enough.
Or are you afraid of me too?
It's just telling us that he's a bad guy and not to like him right off the bat, and then trying to make us like him intermittently.
Why am I even asking? Of course they are.
Yeah, no,
And you are
he's
too.
just bad.
My wife, Javi. My son. They look at me differently.
Why do you think?
Maybe you're seeing them differently. I want to show you something. Stand with me.
No, no, I'm not doing that. Nogi!
Hey.
Nogi.
Hey. Thank you for the 13 months. Nogi.
Just stand down, man.
Hi, friend. Again, thank you for the sub. I really, really appreciate it. How are you doing, buddy? Long time no see. I was really hoping he would jump.
I didn't expect you to understand. I want to change, Javi. I always have.
Really? All you ever tried to do was get me to change.
I don't-
Only because I couldn't bring myself to do it first.
I
It's
don't
the
want
one
this
war I could never
conversation.
win. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering why. Is it because
I'm glad she's
because
enjoying
it's impossible
it.
to change who you really are?
But I'm also glad that you're doing well, friend. Maybe you
I
can't.
don't know, man. Some things can't be moved no matter how hard we push.
Especially considering we're doing
you're
it
one
so
of them.
dang bad.
Maybe. I hope you're wrong, Javi. Like Pa always said, hope in one hand, shit in the other.
See which fills up first.
Don't shit in your hand.
They're up here!
Don't get the mud pie on your hand.
Javi, I ran into...
That's how the
Hey-o.
zombie
Still
plague
outside while we checked
started.
on the entrances.
Someone took
The
too
muertos
small
were
a
everywhere.
slice.
We got him inside
Mud
just in
pie
time.
all over their hands.
So we let him in. There were so many muertos out there.
That was the right thing to do. Proud of you, buddy.
Just to show David that this is how you talk to your kid.
About earlier.
Yeah, about that. I ain't gonna punch you in the teeth, though I got every right.
Really? Figured you'd put up a little bit of a fight.
Oh, I'd love nothing more, but I just can't shake this slippery feeling I got.
I think we call that IBS.
Standing in shoes that don't quite fit. You picked me to die, and someone else did instead. Ain't sitting right. Not one bit.
I don't know what to tell you, man. It was fucked up.
No doubt. Top to bottom.
Right? You consider that your shoes don't fit?
Putting myself in your
He's a big
position.
man. It'd be hard to find big
Conrad
shoes
about
during the
all
apocalypse.
Asking myself over and over again whether I'd do the same.
You know, I'd have that issue.
I really
Does have
would,
weird proportions.
but I can't.
He does.
If someone threatened my family,
Probably is hard to
I'd
find
shoot 'em in a
shoes though.
heartbeat.
that fit.
Hell, I'd shoot him twice to make sure the lesson
Right.
stuck. It's a complicated world, but at least there's people to share it with. Bygones? How about it?
Whoa!
I'm in if you are.
You bet. Bygones.
I mean, those were all the same option,
Try
basically.
not to piss me off again, please.
again, Trip being like weirdly forgiving, but I'm still just
so many.
Not.
They're pouring in.
I'm not.
It's even
not
worse than you
convinced.
think. The streets are overrun. Nowhere to go except inside the buildings, and those smelly fuckers are beating down every door.
We could cover ourselves in their gunk.
Everyone in town is.
We can cover ourselves in their gunk.
What the fuck have we done?
We got rid of a bad town. It's fine.
I don't want to die up here.
None of us do, Gabe. We watch out for ourselves. We're top priority. Absolutely.
Oh,
Best way to
ew!
protect ourselves is to protect this place.
Oh, can I change my plan?
With the streets
Change your
compromised,
mind,
we're
we
gonna
need to
some
save
sort of
everyone.
reinforced mobility.
Right.
That armored truck you guys stole. There's more vehicles like that in the same place. That's over by the motor pool at the water
Ew.
tower. We could use the highway overpass to get to
I
the
don't
water
feel
tower.
great about David agreeing with us.
Come on. Let's jump.
No, thank you. This is going to collapse.
It's an easy jump.
Oh dear.
Also, you thought what?
Don't think I get pulled off this scaffolding.
It better be David. I swear to God.
Now that we've thoroughly established that if you cover yourself in zombie gunk, the what attack you,
your eyes open,
you do need
stay
to give us a
aware of your
reason to not do that. Always.
Right?
Like that's
Right?
just the solution to every zombie problem,
When
right?
we found Kate earlier.
The issue right now is that there are too many zombies.
even know who I was.
Therefore, gunk yourself
Right past
up
me.
and just walk on
Right
out.
towards you.
Yeah.
Why was
Like in season 2, when you do that and it goes horribly wrong because there's
Right.
people shooting at the zombies.
That can only mean one thing. She likes me more. Not a great
It did
time
like
to
it
joke
going.
around, Abby.
Did like it going real bad for everyone.
Yeah. In a situation where it's just zombies, just gunk yourself up.
Right? Aw, Fanny Pack Man's down.
We need to be careful
Cry
here,
on
or else
just
the
walk
exact
up
same
from
thing
being
will
shoved
happen to
into
us.
the lockers.
Stay sharp and do not fire your guns. We're gonna be fine.
Also, Travis makes a good
That guy was
point.
all
Maybe
alone.
David's agreeing because he's tired of being wrong
We're
all
not.
the time. Capitalized all the time. Maybe. I still don't like it though.
Everyone hold back. Let Hobby and I clear out these walkers.
David just starts agreeing with us. How do we be contrary to what David wants all the time?
Right?
Good to go. Let's move.
He's found Checkman. One move. What do we do?
Oh. We force quit the game and never come back. Haha, I win! Oh? Gabe, what's wrong?
Dad used to ask me what I wanted to be when I was a man. And I'd point at him. He always liked that. I thought he was such a great guy.
Yeah. Lots of kids hero
We
worship
flipped
like
the
that.
table.
It's part of the job.
To hit David with a table, I understand now.
Hella, I'm here for this. Why doesn't everyone do the Clem move? Go for the knees and then stab.
It's a good move.
Never be like
It's
your
a very good move.
You told me that all the time.
It seems to take the zombies like a second to like reorient when they get pushed over as well, so you
Right?
get ample time to bop them on the
I
head.
used to think he was
Right?
Not anymore, though, Javi. I can only hope I grow up to be like you.
Oh, no, don't, no.
So, here's hoping.
I just can't believe your dad said that. It's pretty shitty.
He was wrong. You know that. So do I. You took such good care of me. Now we need to take care of Dad. He's the one that needs our help.
Do you mean like take care of? Do you mean like go out back and take care of? Because we can arrange that. That can Gabe. Bonding experience. Let's go.
Came to that idea all on his own. He's grown up.
Wow. Wow.
We were worried he was gonna be a wanna.
You know, I didn't think there was much that could scare me anymore. And yet, here we are. Just goes to show you.
Oh my god,
Life is
Full of surprises.
Fear is the coffee of emotions. It wakes you up.
Unsure.
Keeps you sharp. Can be a friend if you let it.
Oh, do you want me to do the moving? Okay.
Fear is the coffee of emotions.
Take my hand, man.
Car. Thanks, Trip. Oh, Trip's gonna die, isn't he?
Thanks, Trip.
Yeah.
That was...
Oh, no. Did he? Wait, what?
Stick. Son of a goddamn.
Okay, maybe Trip owns actually. Maybe he's
This ain't
fine.
nothing.
We don't
Once
need
we're
to
back
worry
on the
about Trip.
ground, that's when this shit's really gonna get scary.
Did he say shit my nuts?
Bad feeling.
He got that zombie jumped on his back when he was
Nasty down
sneaking
there.
across there. Sometimes
You
you
just saved my life. I mean,
we're
thanks.
streamers.
I'm
Sometimes
glad
you
you
say
have my
shit my nuts.
Lucky catch.
I have to breathe. Oh my god. No, I'm not judging him. I just want to make sure that I heard that right. Alright. Oh my god. Look, I get it. I've said some weird shit when I've been spooked. I get it. I just wanted to make sure that that's what he said.
Being in a zombie apocalypse is like playing a video game. So if you die in the game, you die in real life.
I do have to add shit my nuts to my swearing repertoire.
Doing the best job, but you a rule book to raise a kid.
Shit my nuts.
Sure as shit don't.
The fuck you, fuckstick!
Did David really think he was helping AJ by letting him go?
That was very good.
Why did he stop guarding him?
Maybe you should ask him that. It might be that he just didn't care.
Yeah.
Not everyone's like you, Clem. Not everyone wants to take care of a baby.
I guess not, but after you put in all that work, so much of your heart.
AJ
I was gonna say, oh!
He lived with me after we kicked you out, Clem. Now, I'd already raised 2 kids. Thought it'd be a piece of cake. Not with that tyrant. Is that why you gave him away? We had a bad
Yes!
Destroyed every crop we had.
No, this is, you're
I couldn't leave Richmond. And AJ couldn't stay in Richmond.
You're
I
deflecting.
gave AJ to Lingard and told him to do whatever he had to save his life. I miss that brat.
Well, that's a mistake right there. Giving anyone putting Lingard in charge of anything.
Though I wanted to.
You should have tried harder. There's always a way. It was your
David, you've done
responsibility. You
it
don't get to
so
It
bad.
doesn't haunt me.
You've done it so bad.
It wasn't easy, Clem. Remember, as far as I knew, I'd already lost 2 children.
That doesn't mean
It's
shit.
easier with number 3.
It's never easy.
I'm gonna keep you alive. Keep all of us alive.
I didn't think there was a way to make me hate David even more than I already did, and here I am, shocked.
One way or the other, eventually.
How are we supposed to think that Lingard is like a responsible
Right?
person who...
Right?
I don't know.
Wowee. David's kind of shit.
Chopped right in half.
Yeah, this other half is there. Sorry.
Is it just that, like, he's his brother, so
we're
family,
jumping across that.
you gotta like him. I don't know.
Probably. Honestly, probably. That is genuinely, like, one of, like, my big pet peeves about, like, any bit of media that tends to, like, form around families, because everyone's like, oh, well, I have to stay here because you're my family member. It's like, no, you don't. No, you absolutely do not. If that person is being shit, if that person treats you bad, if they have been horrible to you, You can leave. You can go. You don't have to talk to them.
It's that or go back.
Listen.
We should go light
Anyway.
Kind of being like, being one of the gays, being in the gay community, you kind of, you know, you can't think like that because you're gonna at least know people who, like, even if your own family's really supportive, you're gonna know people who like can't talk to
Absolutely.
Because apparently that only works one way. Like, you have to love them no matter what. But if you're gay and they don't want you to be, then you know.
Sorry, I was really hoping he would fall.
Sorry.
No, it's
fine. Anyway, it's fine.
No, it's fine. Like, honestly, I just...
Your turn.
Yeah, family dynamics, I don't understand them. I know I've talked about it a little bit before, but it's like, like, even on stream, like, I've got some weird fucking family relations and shit like that, and so, like, I've had to cut people off before.
Kids to swing across.
We make our own families. That's kind of what we do in this community.
For sure. And so it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, if you've got family members who are just being absolute trash to you, you don't have to sit there and take it. I'm your family now. Let's go. Mom, aunt, sister, whatever you want. I'm here. Let's go.
All right, David, you're up. You're the little brother. You should go first. Oh, you're definitely lighter.
Aw, come on. You know the drill. Age before beauty.
Yeah.
You fucker.
What would happen if you tried to do this with a raw?
They only go one way, don't they? Oh. Legis, do enlighten us. I'm curious. Trip, you have to go first, because if you don't, you will die now. Now is the time that you will die.
Yeah. I'm going last, brother.
Trip.
No.
You don't have to.
Just go before I throw you across.
No, Trip. No! Why don't I get a say in this? Why would you jump so that you put all of... Oh, here. Like, it's bad enough that you're just, like, already swinging on it and, you know, weighing on that. You don't have to jump! Let's add some extra stress to this already terrible idea that we're doing.
I'll have zombie.
Oh my god. You should watch out. He's still wiggling down there. Trip.
It's all right, y'all.
No, it's not all right.
Shit.
You don't have enough.
How? Don't be fucking thick. I can handle this.
No, you can't. You're gonna fall off the edge. You're too close and you're out of bullets.
Trip!
Don't give up!
Oh my god.
We gotta try. We can't just leave him.
Y'all head out now. I don't want you seeing this.
Oh.
I'm about to do my secret technique.
He just grabs him and throws him off the edge. No!
Oh, okay.
That's not what I meant! I didn't mean like that!
Fighting. I hope I do too.
And then you can hear from down below, I'm not dead yet!
He seemed like a good guy. Kind of guy you want on your side in a fight.
That was so anticlimactic. Trip deserved better.
Come on. We're almost there.
Like, we knew he wasn't gonna survive, but he deserved a cooler death.
Yeah, I liked him at the start, and, like, every time he showed up after that, I liked him a bit less.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Talia. We had a nice trip.
I miss when all we did was track the herd.
And I can't even
Excellent
finish that.
fun goblining.
That was
need to get down there.
very good.
High
We're not
level
getting
fun
anywhere
goblin
without
move.
one of those vehicles.
It's not like we can just ask all those
No,
walkers to move out of the
he
way.
got stuck on the other side of the
How about we make
the
some noise
hole
and
and he
distract them?
fell.
We could use that generator.
Took a couple of zombies with him
It's
though.
a great idea, Gabe. When'd you get so smart, Gabe?
You really aren't the same kid I remember. I'm impressed.
Oh, what can I say? Taught him well.
Oh my God, Javi, really?
Yes.
It's okay, Dad. He's right.
We still
Anything to
gotta
piss
get
off
the
David.
generator Somehow.
Cut a walker open and cover yourself with its guts. Then you can slip right through them.
That is what I have been saying this whole time.
What?
Yeah.
Ugh. Please tell me you're kidding. I said please.
I thought Javi knew that.
Gonna do it.
She'd already said that she did it once.
I know Clem
Javi.
did, but I'm
willing to
pretty
do some
sure
crazy
Javi
stuff
also
for me
mentioned that
before.
it like
I know shooting
he
Conrad
and
wasn't
he and
easy.
Kate like
But
got
she
covered in
knew I
gunk
can
and was like,
always
oh, it seems
depend
like
on
they
you.
don't notice us or whatever.
Of course, Clem.
I thought that happened. Am I just making that up?
It smells
Don't remember.
really bad. Like, way worse than you think.
Coulda.
Ripping pepperonis. Bye, Trip. Okay, well, whatever. Ugh.
You'll do.
That would... Okay.
It was a directional whistle, don't worry. I don't know what that means, but that's what it was.
Oh, he only whistled the one way.
One-way whistle.
It's a six foot smell limits, new EP.
One-way whistle.
One way whistle.
God. Oh, I think.
Yeah, that would smell so bad. Horrible.
This sucks.
Really nice.
Do you just literally eat shit all day long? Is that why you smell so bad?
They are rotting corpses, Javi.
That better be enough.
Decay does not smell good. Oh.
I wish they had to act like a zombie, like in Shaun of the Dead as well.
Right? Distant with a hint of sadness. Like a drunk who's lost a bet.
That's rubbish. Alright, who died and made you king of the fucking zombies?
Give it a go if you're so good.
Alright, just gonna do the whole script of Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
I love that boy!
That was a good boy. That's Devo, first thing in the morning. The second he sees my eyes open, he just comes up and goes...
I need to switch over to the stream to get that on the delay.
Did you catch it? Did you see it?
There has to be a way that the zombies like tell a living thing that they want to eat from something that's a zombie that they can just safely ignore, right? So,
You don't smell like garbage.
yeah, in Walking Dead, it's just smell.
It's
They entirely work on smell.
known fact.
Does that mean you take out a zombie's
did it,
nose? It's
Barely.
completely passive. Won't attack anything.
Now that we're here,
Probably.
find something
We'll go
reinforced
berserk
like
and
you
attack
said,
other
David.
zombies.
Something to help us move around.
Should
Zombie
we have
science?
been aiming for the
Saving
nose
the
the
city
whole
before we do
time?
anything else.
Right? Sounds like some
Gotta
zombie
find something
science
to
needs
seal
to
the bridge
occur.
with. All we need is the right
Let's
vehicle.
go. Because I mean, like, we've already
It's
seen
not
that
gonna
just
do
getting
the
rid of
job,
the
man.
jaw doesn't do
Yes,
anything.
It is.
Despite what
What are you
Jane
doing?
said.
The right thing. I'm leaving. We're all
Works in the
leaving.
comic.
What? And going where?
Well, it worked
You saw it
in season
yourself.
2.
We're surrounded by the herd. I'm taking my
And then in this one, we saw, and we saw one like scraping off the good people
Can't
meat.
wait around.
The land that you move between gyms.
We can't split up.
Right?
We're dead if we do.
Then we don't split up.
The zombies have
We
learned.
protect each other like family.
They're adapting.
This all started the day we knocked on Richmond's door. We brought this on these people, all of us. We can't abandon them. Not after what we've done.
No, we can, but I also
Back
don't
to the
want
last
to
place
agree
we
with
were
David.
family. We're starting over. We're all together again. Finally. It's time. All of us. A
Yeah,
new
we have to
day,
go back. We got one
new
last
life.
chance to get David killed
That's
before we
crazy
bring him along, because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
too
Come on,
awkward to
just
get rid
like
of him.
everything else.
Right.
I thought you guys were gone once, and I was wrong. Maybe you're wrong too.
No, I'm not wrong.
I'll go with you, Dad.
Gabe!
He's my father, Clem. I'm sorry, but you really wouldn't understand.
Think this over.
Oh, wow.
Gabe?
Okay, get fucked, Gabe.
Is this what you really want?
I know it's scary out there, but I have to.
You don't have to be afraid, Gabe. I won't let what happened to Mariana happen to you. You have my word. I will protect you the right way.
That's fucking bullshit, David. She was lucky to have us. At least we were actually around to raise her.
Javi, just stop. This is what I want.
Okay, bye.
I understand, Gabe. I'm still going back. I won't be able to live with myself if I don't try to help the people in Richmond.
You won't be able to live at all if you do that. Richmond is compromised. Doesn't matter if there were 5 of us trying to save it or 500. We'd all die.
So what happened to that whole Richmond
I
is
know a
my
losing battle when I see
people?
We're moving out. Everybody get in. That's an order.
How fucking dare you? What will it take, David? What will it take to show you that you do not get to do that? We are not your soldiers.
Can we
Run
just go
away,
with
Hulk.
Clem and
Be a
leave
deserter.
everyone else?
Right.
Done with you. I can't believe I ever loved you.
Oof! Oh, David's gonna fucking
I
snap,
can't
isn't he?
believe I ever loved either of you.
Well, I mean, okay.
Well, we don't love you.
Javi,
we
what the
told
hell
you
is she
that,
talking
so
about?
that's fine.
Javi.
Oh.
I never acted inappropriately. I could have.
Except that
I didn't.
once.
The end.
But that was a mistake.
Do you think I am, Javi?
Oh,
I should have known. I should have known the night Pa died. The night you weren't there. Blood is worthless to you, just like he was to you, just like I am to you. Well, it's time for you to finally learn what blood really means.
Right?
You're gonna get crud on you.
Oh.
What do you have to say for yourself, brother?
David! Stop it!
I have to.
I love you.
Fuck you, David!
Jesus Christ, stop!
Oh shit.
You're not taking my family from me.
David,
I will be beating this man to a pulp.
that's enough! Both of you, stop!
Yeah.
Ah! Right in the kidney.
Dad, no!
Oh my god! Wait, this is the second time!
I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Let me pop him with a wrench.
Holy shit. Oh my god. Oh, I thought that was his head.
Holy shit!
Clem, you should have shot him. Blurry zombies are back. Also. There was what?
That was just the ground.
There was a foot in there.
David!
Oh, I think Gabe
hell is
regretted
he
that
doing?
choice. JK, Gabe got in the car.
David took him.
We can't wait any longer. We have to go help Richmond.
Wow, you have moved on from Gabe very quickly.
But Gabe!
Gabe wanted to go. He did. We all heard it.
You're right.
I'm going to save Richmond. Someone has to.
Something tells me that he might have changed his mind after getting decked with a wrench.
Okay. Javi?
Yeah,
you
it
hop
can
on
make
that
you
motorcycle and
reconsider
go after
things.
Gabe.
What about you two?
I can take care of myself.
Holy shit.
A bit like blood is just blood, my
Sorry.
dude. Everyone has it.
Right? It's
More
very
than
good.
once. It's not gonna end well for everyone.
It's facts. It's
You have to
true.
decide.
Ugh.
It's hard to be caught in the middle.
I'm gonna go with them,
I'm
but
not
only
gonna
because
risk
Clementine
either
is
of you getting
going.
hurt. We save the city. Together. Let's go seal the breach.
Then
Or
we
we-
go after Gabe.
Then we go after Gabe. If we don't die first.
Or we could just forget about Gabe.
Oh, I think we're back.
Okay. Does say
Stream's
that-
back up.
Perfect. Does say my internet is unstable, but I think that's just because I have just restarted my computer. So we're gonna give that a second. That wasn't the issue though. Like, it wasn't an internet issue. I don't know what happened, but we're here again. That was mildly horrifying. My computer might just be a smidge dusty.
Are you playing now?
No, I'm just sitting on the
Okay,
menu.
sorry. I don't mind what for us. It's fine.
Nope, it's just us on the pause menu. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Some
Oh.
minor technical differences. Difficulties. We got this.
Okay. I think it's been up for long enough. I'll go ahead and start because it did put us back a bit. But
We gotta
Hey.
fight the man again.
hey, game, my controller is plugged in. I can pause it with the controller. Okay. Maybe it just wouldn't change the QuickTime event. Oh well. Anyway. That was a fun little thing that happened.
Hey, control's working.
Hey! And of course my computer freaks out, like, towards the end of stream.
David!
But that's okay.
It's fine.
What
There's always
the
gonna
hell
be
is he doing?
technical problems.
Right? You're not a streamer if there's not technical issues.
Yeah.
David took him.
We can't wait any longer. We have to go help Richmond.
Okay, internet is still a little
I'm getting on
unstable,
that
but that's
bulldozer.
okay.
But Gabe!
Gabe wanted to go. He did.
We're almost
We
there.
all heard it.
You're right.
You can drop the
I'm going to
secret
save
stream if
Richmond.
you want, and I'll
Someone
just
has
be a little bit in the past.
You're gonna need as much help
Nah,
as you can get, Kate.
it's fine.
I'll go with you.
I'll get rid of
Okay.
music.
You up on that motorcycle?
And hold on. Oh, that's the issue. Steam was like, hey, I'm gonna download a thing right now.
Cycle and go after Gabe.
Ah, thanks,
What about you
Steam.
two?
I can take
Steam,
care of
please.
myself.
We're out of time.
It does just do that.
Sorry.
Usually it
Been here
it stops
before, more than
downloading when
once.
you launch a game, but it was just like, no, I'm gonna keep downloading a thing.
You have to
So hopefully that
decide.
helps with the internet. We're
Hard
gonna
to
help
be
Kate.
caught in the middle. I know
I'm glad it
that.
didn't put us
I'm
back
not
too
gonna
far.
risk either of you getting hurt. We save the city. Together. Let's go seal the breach.
Then we
Oh,
go after
boy.
Gabe.
Then
I
we
thought
go
it went
after
further
Gabe.
back than they were,
If we
actually.
don't die
It's
first.
fine.
Yeah, this is perfectly fine. This is about where it crashed.
If we're gonna
So
drive into the herd, we're gonna need these.
I think it broke when you were walking towards the fancy AKs.
game was like, not these again. We can't have these anymore. Wow!
Yo!
Horse ninja!
Well, there's a happy sight. Can
Oh,
just get the
Jesus!
gate open?
Almost didn't recognize you, Jesus.
Once I got in contact with my people, I headed right back. Had to
What?
make sure you folks were safe.
Jesus,
I
why are
think
you
I'm
wearing?
getting the hang of this.
Right?
Where's those away? Just get me to the gate so I can open
What?
it up.
Jesus, who are your people? Jesus, are you in a cult? Jesus, are you a cult leader?
Jesus, are you from the future?
We're almost there! Holly, get in the basket and I'll lift you to the top of the gate!
Future
The
Jesus.
thing in the front! The scooper thing! Whatever, get in it!
I'll keep them off you.
Bobby, please. We only just got over here. That is incredibly loud.
Javi, the basket!
Right. Yeah.
They really don't.
Right? What? I am very confused about Jesus right now. I was gonna try and let it not take up my entire attention, but it is.
Yeah, he showed up in space armor on a horse
with a sword.
Doing ninja moves with a sword.
Hey, Jesus. What's up?
You just have an open gate button.
He really is Garrus Vicarian.
Honestly.
A smooth salmon man himself.
Also, first try.
Let's get inside and wrangle the walkers together. If we
Yeah,
get 'em in
internet's
one
fine
group,
now.
We can lead 'em right
Because
out.
Steam was downloading stuff.
Nice.
Doesn't explain why it crashed earlier, but it's fine. It fine. Jesus, who are you? I need answers right now. You can't just throw a bunch of men in space armor and swords on horses at me and not explain why a bunch of men in space armor with swords on horses are here.
Where else are the spacemen on horses gonna go?
Maybe
Gotta
to
go
space.
somewhere.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're not wrong, but also, I just need, I need an explanation.
They're piling up on the thing! The basket!
Clem's got a rifle. This is great. Let's go.
Shit, I'm empty.
Here,
Oh, how many
take
fish?
over!
If he's shooting on all that.
Let's plug the breach with the damn truck!
Oh, you just want me to press forward. Okay. Sorry. I was gonna not run into the obstacle. But that's what you want me to do.
Here we go.
This is bizarre.
Yeah. Cassie had to crash right before this, so we'd be more disoriented when we came back in. Makes
Right.
sense.
I understand.
Here's crossed.
Just vaguely reminds me of the steamroller scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Just all the zombies just getting crushed under us.
That's it. Let's get out of here.
Let's go.
Over here. We can go round up these walkers. Head 'em towards the gate.
Jesus!
Welcome back.
I thought we were coming back to,
Jesus.
well, not to this.
What is happening?
It's just a little
Right?
surprising. That's all.
This? Oh, this is just another Tuesday in Richmond.
We need to get it under control. Trouble in one place usually finds its way to another.
Javi, we have to go after Gabe.
I
These
do
guys can
like
take
that
care
he's
of
put
the
his
rest of the
hair
walkers.
up.
Go, Javi.
Just very
I'll help out
cute.
here.
Okay. Let's go, Clem.
We've gone from Hobo Jesus to Superstar Jesus.
Jesus Christ, superstar.
Oh no. Yeah, I guess. Oh. Oh, that's David!
Oh, jeez.
Good. Fuck him. That does imply that Gabe killed him. That big hole in his head.
Yeah.
Sad I wasn't there to see it. But I'm glad we went and saw... Oh...
Oh, please, no.
Oh... That's fine.
Tried to stop him, Javi. That's when we crashed.
God damn. David!
You fought for me, Javi. Until they...
Okay, well, he was still a piece of shit.
There were so many. I fucked up. After everything you taught
David
me.
fucked this up.
Yeah, right?
It really hurts.
You didn't fuck anything up, buddy. You fought as hard as you could. I'm proud of you.
I tried. I really did.
This does kind of suck.
Gabe! No.
Do me a favor, Glenn.
Gabe, no.
Take my cards.
I thought he was gonna ask her to kill him. I was like, don't do that.
They're marked now. I'll know
Right.
which one's on top.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you got bloody cards. Item acquired.
For whatever comes next.
I will.
You'd better. Bye, Gabe.
Bye, Glenn. Give me your gun, Javi. I don't want it turn into a muerto.
Gabe, I don't know if I can let you do that to yourself.
And I can't make you guys do it for me. Just give me the gun. Hurry. Javi.
Okay, Gabe. Here you go.
Oof.
Yeah.
You may not be my father, Javi. But you were a great dad.
Oh my god, am I hate David more than Ben Paul?
Walk away.
David? You might hate David more?
Yeah.
That's because he's the fucking worst. And, like, at least with Ben Paul, look, Ben Paul is awful, horrible, terrible. We hate Ben Paul, but there were plenty of times where it's like he wasn't intentionally trying to fuck things up. He's just terrible at everything he does. David intentionally screwed everything up. David woke up and was like, I think I'm going to be the worst human I can possibly be today.
Don't leave the gun.
Right. You should go back and get it.
You should get the gun though.
You put a full clip in there. You should go get that. Okay, or not. Alright, I guess. Yikes! That was kind of tough. I started warming up to Gabe. Gave him shit a lot, but you know,
yeah, but...
he's
you were like trying to do him like being torn between being a complete garbage person like his dad or just being a normal guy.
Yeah.
But like I did it by making him randomly swing between the two extremes.
I feel like that's how they did a lot of these characters though.
Yeah.
I'm glad you helped me, Javi. But I can't stop
A lot of
wondering
weird
how things might be different if
choices
you
with the
hadn't.
characters. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Gabe wouldn't be with Mariana right now.
Oh.
They deserved better, Javi. Better than us.
I don't know. I thought Javi did a pretty okay job.
Gabe.
Yeah, I want to have it.
This wasn't
It's
our
fucking
fault.
David.
This
Right?
was David.
Like, okay, like, as Javi, I made a lot of bad choices. But when it came to the kids, it was a lot of just either trying to keep them safe or just doing something to spite David.
Yeah, which in turn, doing something to spite David would obviously be doing the
is Richmond
sensible
everything
thing,
you thought it would
which
be?
would be protecting
Not
the
yet.
children.
Right?
I'm staying here until it is, though.
Oh,
It's not
jeez.
safe out there. Or in here.
Oh,
Pretty sure I
jeez.
can fix one of those. I'm not saying I want it to be this way forever, but I want you to keep your distance.
Yeah, that's fine.
Not forever.
With pleasure.
It's no problem at all.
Pretty quick answer there.
You said it's what you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you... I'm sorry, did you want him to be like, no, I want to stay? Because, no.
But I hate knowing
We're not playing those games.
Could have been.
Fuck you, Kate.
Yeah.
Just, where's Clem? And where's Chunky Baby?
Did we ever save Chunky? Did someone save Chunky Baby?
I don't think so. I need a Chunky Baby update ASAP. Hi, Jesus.
Heading out?
Yes, indeed. We came here to put an end to the raiding. Looks like that's been done. Glad we got it settled. Gotta move on.
I like
Gotta
Jesus.
admit, man, you're a fucking badass.
You're a real charmer.
Can't.
Through and through.
Wait, excuse me?
Meant to tell you, that armor you got is great.
Oh. Well,
Kiss Jesus.
thanks. It gets the job done.
Can I?
I was worried
Can I
about
do
you,
a
Javi,
smooch on Jesus?
about who you are inside.
Hey, Jesus.
You helped save these people.
Can we?
That goes a long way.
Can we
for
get
you.
on the back
lips?
of Jesus' heart and ride off into the sunset?
I thought you were just gonna say, can we get on the back of Jesus?
Life within walls is a hell of a lot different than life on the road. Don't take shortcuts. You gotta do the right thing. Always. Good days, and especially bad.
Absolutely.
I love Jesus. Listen.
No matter what.
Good to hear. I read
We're
people
Jesus
pretty
fans.
well.
We're like Jesus.
Little
here.
I'm a
It's fine.
big,
You're a capable
big
guy,
fan of
Javi.
Jesus.
Change is in the air here. You can lead that change, and I think you should. For the better. God knows this town could use it.
You know what?
Oh my God.
And that's a wrong.
Then as far as I'm concerned,
Jesus
it's in
admires
much
my
better hands than it
commitment.
was.
Yeah.
Be vigilant. Trouble never stays too far
Also,
away.
was it just me or was there a little tension there? When he called us a charmer. Like, Jesus, you can go back anytime.
So you're out of here too, huh?
Yeah. It's time.
Sorry.
I have to find AJ
Spoiler,
Hobby.
nothing, it was just
I've
you.
waited so long.
Okay. There was just the way that he, like, responded to that was very, like, are we? Jesus, what are we?
When we steadied down when I see we're blushing, I saw it.
Perfect. Oh, my face hurts. I miss Jesus.
I used to do this for my niece.
Clem!
That's nice of you.
She thought I was terrible at it.
Look weird without your hat on.
None of your business.
I have to see AJ Hobby. I have to see that he's okay.
Me too.
Right?
Do you think he remembers me?
Probably.
At least a little?
How long has it been?
Who could forget you, Clem?
I mean, it can't be more than,
No
like,
one who knew
a
you, I
year,
guarantee.
right?
Yeah, maybe.
Because Clem looked pretty much the same as she does now in the
Told us he was better
flashbacks.
off.
Yeah.
After everything that's happened, I'm starting to think they're right. I don't know if I was a good mom or not. I can't stop thinking about it.
It's not about good or not good. You kept him alive.
Also, I'm just so invested
You did
in
your job.
Clementine at this point. I just want to give
It
her a
took someone else
hug.
to
You're
do
too
it
young
for
to
me.
be thinking about being a mom. But also, you've been forced to have to do it, and I get it, but also...
Gabe told me you
Also,
used to
you're
play
the
baseball.
only competent person in the world.
Right?
You're the only one who's suitable
He
for
told me you
this
fucked it
task.
all up, too.
Holy shit.
Yep. Sure did.
Well, you survived,
I had to.
but you loved it. How do you survive that? How? If you really loved it, how?
You get back out there and find something better.
There may not be something better out there.
You won't know until you step outside. All done.
Well, how's it look?
Chunky. Incredibly gay.
You know what? I'll grab your hat.
No, Clement's great.
I remember this team. Your dad ever teach you about baseball?
No, not really.
Well, you come back, and I'll tell you all about it.
It's a deal. If I bring AJ back with me, will you teach him too?
Hell yeah.
You bet. He belongs.
Why
with
would you tell her to leave him be? Who
Yeah, we
would
have
say that?
No information on where, like, what situation the baby's in.
Right?
We know that the dude, the like horrible
Addict
nonsense
daughter?
doctor just gave the baby away.
Oh, jeez. New outfit. New Clem just dropped.
Gay icon Clem. Let's
Right.
go. That was from Chess. Stalwars.
Talia's not wrong, though. Listen! We stand a gay icon. Ellie's not the only lesbian wandering around the zombie apocalypse. I don't know if Clementine's a lesbian. She's got time to figure stuff out. Sorry. Your experience with David was adversarial. Yeah, because he was the worst.
David sucked. David was horrible. I don't know, like, how that could have gone differently, but I don't see how David could have, like, done anything remotely redeeming.
Right? Okay, hold on a second. I am gonna turn this down.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, where'd my cursor go? There it is. Because I can guarantee that this is copyrighted.
Yeah.
So we'll just mute that real fast. I do like that our experience with Kate was just friendly. Just friendly, nothing more. We were caring for Gabe.
Trip died.
Trip.
Kilana.
Sorry. Everyone's dead.
Oh yeah, but one of those is Linka. Don't worry about it.
It's true, but it's just like, it's all red. Jesus is fine, though.
Jesus is fine. That's what matters.
Right? We did good with Jesus. Don't know what happened to Joan. That's uncomfortable. Did you? Jesus is real fine. I think we're like officially like Jesus heads here. I think we kind of like Jesus.
A lot of people said they were into Jesus, and I didn't get it until now.
Until now. Now I understand. I stand with Jesus.
I am shocked that this is 8%. Like,
right?
why?
Too many people liked David, and I don't understand why he was the worst.
How? Oh, David's
The
so bad.
worst. Yeah, most people confess their love for Kate. 2.2% of people said nothing.
Always a valid response.
Always. We are still very much in the minority there, though. Why are people? Why are people?
So that means 63.5% of players said "I love you" instead of hitting him back.
Yes. That is what that means. I have questions for people. Okay, most people went with Kate to Richmond. Again, I only went because that's where Clem was going, and apparently where Jesus was. So Okay.
Ooh. You can annoy
Clem so much.
she won't even hang out with you anymore.
Right. That's fair. Alright, get us out of here. Wait! Our Clementine became a survival expert!
Oh.
Clementine and AJ traveled solo through dangerous territory, fighting off walkers and barely surviving. After swallowing her pride and joining the new frontier, Clem used her resources to help the person closest to her survive. He was unrepentant even when exiled. When Javi and David fought at the water tower, Clem remembered a similar fight long ago at a snow-covered rest stop. She took a carefully placed shot to stop David's violence without killing him. Clem could have killed him.
Yeah.
And once David left in the truck with Gabe,
would have saved
honestly.
Gabe if she'd have just fucking shot David in the head.
Right. And then she was strategizing about what she would do after. Oh. Okay.
Sound back on.
Sounds back on. Get him, Clem. Jesus.
Not doing the leg thing anymore, just killing them in one hit.
Yeah.
At the same time.
She's gone from 2 chops Clem to 1 swing Clem.
Makes sense.
Oh, shit, Clementine! We have created a zombie killing machine.
I'm gonna find you, AJ.
She's gonna do fine. Does this mean we're gonna play as Clementine next time? Because that would be fantastic. Stop giving me ads for season 2. We've done that. Holy shit. Okay, hold on. This makes it seem like there's something new here. Extras? That's just our choices. Okay. Clem Terminatorine. Alright, I'm gonna exit out of this. That was probably the worst season of the 3 that we have played so far.
Yeah.
It's
never like...
It was weird.
Like, we're always in these dealing with characters who are like shitty, because that's like a lot of the game is the drama between the different people, and some of them are just trash, and there's not really a lot you can do about it. You're in a lot of tough situations, and sometimes you're stuck there with people who are garbage, and you just gotta deal with it. But like, I've never felt like the responses and stuff that we had were like so far against what we wanted to be doing.
They were weird, and it's just like, I don't know, I felt like a lot of the characters in the previous ones, even in season 2, like some of the ones that were just not great, were at least like consistent in whatever they were doing. This just, everyone was flip-flopping so much, and I don't think it's because of the choices that we were making necessarily.
Yeah.
Although that didn't necessarily help. But some of the way that things were handled was just wild. Like the conversation with David when he was throwing a fit in the batting cage or whatever. It was just like,
yeah,
you basically you just told me to fuck off, and now you're like, take care of my family. It's like, no.
Yeah, that were meant to be, I assume, like a humanizing moment for David. When it starts by him being mad that he's not as good at baseball as his brother, who is a professional who plays the like hardest position in baseball professionally.
Right? Yeah,
And
it was.
then he goes on to him just. We told him to fuck off, and he was just like, "You have to look after my family."
No! No! Yeah, it was weird. I mean, like, I still enjoyed it, but I think a lot of that just had to do with the fact that, like, we're streaming it, and I'm playing it with you, and we get to, like, scream about it together.
Yeah, the streams were fun, but I definitely think, like, first and second season were leagues better than that.
Oh, 100%. I am curious to see what the last season is gonna be.
Yeah.
Because it does lead me to believe that we will be playing as Clementine. So that's exciting. I've missed Clem. Like, I think we talked about it previously, and I don't remember if it was on stream or just while we were sitting in a call or something. It's like, I don't necessarily mind being another character aside from Clementine, but these characters just felt so odd and so cobbled together, and they, like, expect you to have the same emotional attachment to all of them as you did with, like, previous characters, and it's like, that's not... I'm not just gonna roll with that. Show me that the characters are sympathetic. I don't know.
Yeah, we're doing... The flashbacks were so weird and bad, and that was, like, how it, like, characterized them for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I guess, like, it's like if...
all the flashbacks were just really bad.
Weird. They were weird. But it's like if, like, season 2 Kenny were to show up without us having the, like, background of who Kenny started out as, I would have fucking hated him. Miserable, horrible character. Would have hated to have, like, second season Kenny show up without us knowing who he was. And that's what this feels like, is they're kind of expecting you to just be like, but see, they were sympathetic people at one point. It's like, yeah, but I never saw that. You've just thrown this man who punched me at me. That's not great.
Kenny were like, he like flipped between being totally fine and like mad enough to beat someone brutally to death with a crowbar and just keep going until there's nothing left of his skull. Right. And he just flipped like at the drop, you know, instantly. But that was like because he had problems. Because
like,
we weren't supposed to see that and think this is fine and normal.
Right? No, but it's like you had all the knowledge of how he got there, of the fact that he's lost literally everyone and continues to lose literally everyone. Every single thing that he ever planned for has fallen through. Just everything is bad for Kenny. And he has no means of addressing any of the bad things that have happened to him. Yeah. Poor buddy.
Characters in that did like they just hop between like being full garbage mode, the worst possible like aspects of the personality, and then just like trying to have a human moment right after, and it just makes it seem insincere because you've just seen him be as shitty as possible.
Right? No, it's
you can't do that.
It just gives like really insincere vibes. It does the absolute opposite of what they want. Yeah. It's just like, no, you give me like, I don't want to say like abuser vibes. I mean, that definitely goes for like David. Of like straight up like gaslighting abusive husband. But like all the other ones, it's just like, I don't trust you. Did you not see what you just said in the other room? Like, this doesn't make sense. It was weird.
What weird. Some of it did just seem like conversations with like aliens.
Right? This is how people respond to things, right?
Weird characters.
Honestly. But it was still fun. I had fun with it.
Yeah, it were fun playing it through, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do season 4 next weekend. I don't know why I said that so strangely, but that's the plan at least. And then we'll be done with The Walking Dead. I am excited.
I am.
Perfect. Okay, let's set up a raid and then call it here because it is time. While I'm doing that, I actually know who we're gonna raid and no one gets to say anything. Sam is still doing their subathon. And they are still going, so we will be going and saying hello to Sam. That's just that's just that. But yeah, as per usual, thank y'all for being here and being wonderful, fantastic people. Fruity, thank you for playing and hanging out and chatting with me. I very much enjoyed these.
Thanks for bringing me along.
Yeah!
I got to look at Jesus.
You got to look at Jesus. We got to fawn over Jesus together. It was cool.
Very good moment right at the end.
It's a very good moment. But general plan for this coming week, I don't know if I'm streaming tomorrow. If I do, it'll probably be Golden Light. But let's just plan on me not streaming, and then we'll finish out Ghostwire this next week. And then do season 4 of Walking Dead next weekend. That's what I got. We're gonna go say hi to Sam. I love y'all. Goodbye. Raid's happening now. Okay, bye!